Xianxia approaches the Great Sect Assembly, his golden crow bloodline stirring with hidden power. The eyes of the flame god realm are upon him, and the very ice of snow song trembles. Leave a like and join the sect to witness the confrontation. With less than an hour left to the start of the Great Sect Assembly, Xianxia finally set off with Bingyun from the Ice Phoenix Palace. Xiaolan naturally followed behind them. They flew past the Ice Phoenix City region, in a straight line toward the north. As they were approaching the Sacred Hall region, a figure was also flying in the same direction behind them. Seeing Xianxia, the figure stopped for an instant before immediately accelerating and arriving before them. Dressed fully in white, he looked charming and his entire body emitted an elegant aura. It was Xiaolan. Palace Master Bingyun, junior sister Xiaolan, and junior brother Xianxia. Oh no, Xiaolan laughed as he shook his head. From today onward, I should call you senior brother Xianxia. Bingyun nodded. Xiaolan returned the greeting while Xianxia laughed and said, Senior brother Hani is too kind. I'm younger than senior brother Hani and also entered the sect much later. I really can't accept the title of senior. Why is senior brother Hani alone today? Previously, I was discussing some trivial things with my royal brother through sound transmission, hence the delays. Hani casually explained before sincerely adding, I have yet to congratulate junior brother Xianxia for becoming sect master's direct disciple. Regarding this, I'm quite ashamed. That day, after losing to junior brother Xianxia, the shock I received was too great, and I remained in a listless and confused state for countless days. It was only a few days back that I snapped out of it. Now that I think about it, although junior brother Xianxia's cultivation level is still low, based on talent, simply being able to dive thousands of kilometers inside the heavenly lake, it is probably not an exaggeration to say that you are unparalleled and will also never be matched in the future. It is something that Hani can never hope to compete with. Losing was also only natural. It's just that I hope that it was not too laughable to you when I blurted out about giving you an 80% handicap that day. What is senior brother Hani saying? Xianxia smiled gently and replied, In the future, I still need to rely on senior brother Hani's guidance within the sect. Hani laughed as he shook his head. He raised his hands to bid farewell, and just as he was about to leave, he suddenly thought of something and said, Oh, in another 15 days, it will be Hani's royal father's 1,000-year birthday. Since junior brother Xianxia will be by sect master's side often from now onwards, if there's free time, could you kindly inform sect master about it? All right, I understand. Xianxia nodded. I will find a suitable opportunity to let sect master know about this. Judging from Hani's look, he obviously would not expect the stately Snow Song Realm King to attend his royal father's 1,000-year birthday celebration. He had merely wanted to convey the message out of respect. Hani shall take his leave. I long to see junior brother Xianxia's grace at the Great Sect Assembly later. Hani paid his respects and flew towards the Sacred Hall. Xianxia, along with the other two, also began flying towards the Sacred Hall. Suddenly, Bingyun asked, Xianxia, how do you find Hani as a person? Xianxia turned, thought for a while, and replied, Based on what I know, he should have very firm obsession about becoming the direct disciple, and he should have been very confident. However, 1 week ago, he was only one step away from success, and the reason that he failed was me. In a mere 7 days, not only has he calmly accepted it, he showed no enmity when facing me and even approached on his own to greet. Honestly speaking, if it were me, I definitely wouldn't be able to do it. That's right, Senior Hani is really a good person. Xiaolan nodded. Bingyun glanced at Xiaolan before changing the topic. Actually, 7 days ago in the Netherfrost Heavenly Lake, the battle of ice spirits between Hani and Feixu, the winner should have been Feixu. Ah, Xiaolan's mouth turned agape in shock. Does that mean that Sect Master was manipulating the results in the dark? Xianxia asked in shock. With the strength of the Sect Master, if she wanted to manipulate the results, it would not take any effort on her part. Furthermore, she could do it without it being detected. That's indeed the truth. Bingyun nodded. In terms of talent, Feixu definitely beats Hani by a little. However, Hani's personality, without considering the good or evil, is indeed better to be the direct disciple. Xianxia remained silent but did not feel shock. However, unexpectedly, due to the turn of events, you were actually selected. Bingyun stared quietly before sighing lightly. Although Sect Master knew that your physique was special from the start, you were still someone who belonged to the lower realms. You'll still return in a few years whether or not you have achieved your objective. Since you didn't plan to stay in the Snow Song realm, there wasn't any thought regarding making you a direct disciple. However, this is perhaps fate. Furthermore, I felt that her eventual change of plans to go according to this turn of events was most importantly not because of your physique, but because of your guts in facing the palace masters and elders and even in rebutting her. That shouldn't be it, Xianxia muttered, before mocking himself. You can say it's guts, but without sufficient strength backing it, it is still foolishness that does not know death. Sect Master still scolded me twice. Bingyun shook her head, but she did not explain. Looks like I don't have to remind you regarding Hanny, however regarding Feixu, she's the most suitable for you. Most suitable for me? What does that mean? Xianxia was stunned. You should know in a few days. Bingyun revealed a very faint smile. Xianxia. Master, after Xianxia becomes Sect Master's direct disciple, will it be very hard to meet him? Xiaolan suddenly asked softly. Amen. Bingyun gently nodded. From today onward, Xianxia will stay in the sacred hall with the Sect Master. It should be very difficult to see him again. Oh, Xiaolan uttered before looking down again. Senior Sister Xiaolan Lan, could it be that you miss me? Xianxia leaned towards her and asked cheekily. Who's going to miss you? Xiaolan frantically stepped back and replied anxiously. After you leave, I can accompany Master alone. I'm overjoyed, HMPH. Oh, Xianxia let out a sigh with a disappointed expression. All right. I had originally planned to come back to the Ice Phoenix Palace often to look around, but since you hate me so much, it's best for me to not come back uninvited. You coming back to see Master is natural. I can't stop you anyways. Xiaolan's voice weakened immediately. Ice Phoenix Sacred Hall, 10 in the morning. Following the long cry of the enormous frost dragon, the Snow Song Realm King descended from the skies and sat on her sacred throne, officially starting the Great Sect Assembly. The high-ranked were all present, the middle rank took nearly half the hall and millions of disciples were present. The entire sacred hall arena was filled with an ocean-vast, ice-cold aura. However, what was most eye-catching about this Great Sect Assembly was not the Snow Song Realm King, but Xianxia. After Huanji personally read the decision from 7 days ago and the direct disciple decree, Xianxia slowly walked forward under the various different gazes of everyone present. He arrived before the Snow Song Realm King and bowed solemnly. There was no mist around the Snow Song Realm King today. As Xianxia walked towards her, his mind and emotions were a complete mess. She was beautiful like a fairy, as though she was carved from ice jade. However, under her gaze, every pore on Xianxia could feel a bone-piercing cold intent. Within the Snow Song realm, she could determine anyone's life and death. Now she had actually become his master. Previously, he had been interacting closely with her. Not only did he act poorly, he was also disrespectful and even called her big-breasted senior sister several times. The very last time, he had also very obviously teased her. Until now, Xianxia still could not completely accept that she was actually the Snow Song Realm King. The most vital evidence being the fact that although he had teased the Snow Song Realm King, even after she became his master, he was still completely alive and well. Xianxia, even though your time in the sect has been short and your cultivation is poor, you possess an exceptional physique and a talent for the ice elements. Your future is limitless. When the Snow Song Realm King spoke, everyone within the sacred hall arena listened. Today, this king shall take you in as my direct disciple and grant you the Ice Phoenix bloodline. You'll have to follow the rules strictly and cultivate our Ice Phoenix profound arts diligently. If you are to slack off, this king shall personally deliver your punishment. Yes, Xianxia's face was stern as he recalled what Bingyun told him. This disciple shall live up to his talent and not let master or the sect down. Pay your respects. Huanji echoed loudly as he looked at Xianxia, his expression complicated. Everyone's gaze was fixated on Xianxia, watching him perform the discipleship ceremony with Xiaolan. Envy, jealousy, shock, and disbelief. Everyone strongly believed that the direct disciple would either be Hanny or Feixu. No one would have imagined that it would be someone who had just entered the sect, who had just broken through to the divine origin realm. Not only had he come from the lower realms, it had only been a mere 3 months since he had arrived in the divine Ice Phoenix sect. He had only used 3 months to step over Hanny, Feixu, and all the disciples within the sect to arrive at the very top. Even when Xianxia completed the ceremony, his heart still could not calm down, and he still did not dare look at Xiaolan. Even when he was serving tea, he had hoped that he could hide his head somewhere, and was extremely worried for his future. Then a sudden cold gust blew. A deacon from the front of the hall swiftly descended and knelt, speaking quickly. "Sect Master, guests from the Flame God Realm request to see you. They're already outside the Sacred Hall." "What? Outside the Sacred Hall?" Mu Huange's expression changed, and the elders at the side all stood up. "HMPH," Mu Xuanian snorted. "To be able to barge into this place without any commotion, it seems like those three old fogies have personally come." "Yes, Sect Master, the three leading are the three Sect Masters of the Flame God Realm," the deacon softly replied. The three Sect Masters of the Flame God Realm had all personally come. Shock and an unusual feeling instantly spread through the cold wind. "How many people have they brought along?" Mu Huange asked. "The three Sect Masters only brought along 3 others. Furthermore, they are 3 people with very young auras." "6 people. It seems like the 3 old fogies have obtained some guts." Mu Xuanian did not stand up, but her ice-cold voice pierced into the heavens. "Let them in. Chair come to Master's side." The cold voice had an irresistible majesty to it, and how she had addressed Yun Qi had also changed as well. Yun Qi was stunned for a short while. Shortly after, he stood up and carefully walked toward Mu Xuanian, eventually standing to her right. Seeing Yun Qi actually standing at the side of the Snow Song Realm King, all the disciples were full of envy. Even the highest-ranking elders and palace masters also revealed signs of envy within their eyes. The cold breeze stopped and was suddenly replaced with several waves of hot air. Under the waves of hot air, 6 people descended from the skies, 3 people in front and 3 others behind. Their steps slowed down as they took the middle ice path and walked towards Mu Xuanian. The air of all the places that they had walked past instantly turned chaotic and scorching. Their footsteps were silent, but every step caused others to feel as if their hearts were being trampled on and their organs were trembling. Their auras was so heavy that those elders and palace masters whose cultivations were below the realm king felt their hearts subconsciously tighten and stop beating. Their arrival had caused the atmosphere of the palace courtyard to suddenly undergo a great change. Not only was it clear that they had come with bad intentions, their group also included those from the hated Flame God Realm. The 3 figures at their head were the 3 great sect masters who were unparalleled within the Flame God Realm, figures who everyone within the Snow Song Realm had heard of before. Right when the group had arrived, Yun Qi's gaze had immediately locked onto those 3 figures, because he was extremely familiar with the aura emanating from 2 of them. As for the man in the middle of the 3, he had an extremely fair face and seemed to be quite young, even though he was the tallest of the 3. The feeling he gave the others was extremely mild and calm. As he stood in the middle of the group of 3, it was clear that his status was somewhat greater than the other 2. It was none other than the sect master of the Flame God Realm's Vermilion Bird Sect, Yan Wangkang. The face of the man on Yan Wangkang's right was motionless, ordinary, and quite forgettable. However, his figure released a fiery aura which Yun Qi was quite familiar with, the aura of Phoenix Flames, sect master of the Flame God Realm's Phoenix Sect, Yan Juhai. As for the person on Yan Wangkang's left, although his face was also motionless, he was completely different from Yan Wangkang and Yan Juhai. His long hair was like flames as they hung down freely and enveloped his body in a sea of fiery red. Wherever he went, the air and space around him would distort as if he were a moving volcano about to erupt. His eyes seemed to be filled with miniature suns, and whenever his gaze swept over someone, the person would suddenly feel a terrifying burning sensation emerge within their mind. As for the searing aura emanating from his body, it was also one Yun Qi was extremely familiar with. Sect master of the Flame God Realm's Golden Crow Sect, Huo Poyun. The Flame God Realm didn't have any great realm kings. Nonetheless, these 3 people were currently the strongest practitioners within the Flame God Realm, and also the leaders of the 3 most powerful sects in the Flame God Realm. This was because their statuses within the Flame God Realm were completely equivalent to the statuses of a great realm king. Yet currently, they had all actually personally come to the Snow Song Realm even though they weren't invited. Moreover, they had all come together. Thus, even the weakest disciples atop the courtyard could smell that something was up. A young man followed behind each of the 3 great sect masters. Based on the auras coming from their respective bodies, each one belonged to the faction of the master they followed behind. As the 3 men walked behind the 3 sect masters, their gazes were serious, but their indifferent expressions contained traces of arrogance. However, as they walked ever closer to Mu Xuanian, the arrogance on their faces slowly disappeared as they became pressured. Although they still maintained their postures as the top disciples of the Flame God realm, their bodies had become extremely tense under the incredible pressure released by Xuanian. The group walked up to in front of where Xuanian sat, then stopped. Then, Yan Wangkang took one more step forward, cupping his hands in respect and loudly stating, "Flame God Realms Yan Wangkang, Yan Juhai, and Huo Ruli greet the Snow Song Realm King. We are fortunate to be able to once again witness the Snow Song Realm King's splendor and elegance. Our visit this time is extremely impertinent. We ask Snow Song Realm King to forgive us." Yan Juhai and Huo Ruli also cupped their hands in respect. As they moved, Yun Qi's gaze landed on Huo Ruli's figure. Yan Wangkang and Yan Juhai both had serious expressions and were not revealing any hostility. Instead, they seemed to have come to plead. As for Huo Ruli, although he was also cupping his hands, one could clearly sense the killing intent radiating out from within from his two eyes. Huo Ruli was none other than the person who had plotted against Bingyun 1,000 years ago. Even with the personal arrivals of the Flame God Realm's 3 sect masters, Xuanian remained still where she sat. Her beauty was covered with a frosty countenance which caused them to feel as if they had fallen into an icy prison. Rudeness? HMPH, do you even know what rudeness is? Not only did you all come uninvited, you dared to directly enter the sacred hall. It seems like your spying has become much more clever than before. You people from the Flame God Realm are truly becoming increasingly bold. The 3 youths behind the 3 sect masters were all frozen still as if they had been sealed in ice. This was the first time coming to the Snow Song Realm for all of them, let alone the first time meeting the legendary Snow Song Realm King. For them to be able to accompany the 3 sect masters naturally meant they were no ordinary people, but never in their wildest dreams had they imagined that the pressure exerted by the Snow Song Realm King would be so terrifying. They didn't feel as if they were standing there. Instead, they felt as if their bodies and souls had been nailed in place by a terrifying, incomprehensible chill. They didn't dare to move at all. Even the pressure exerted by the 3 great sect masters together couldn't compare at all to this pressure. At this point, the 3 youths thoroughly realized why the 3 great sect masters dreaded the Snow Song Realm King so much, even though the Snow Song Realm was much weaker than the Flame God Realm. For the 3 dignified sect masters, who were all figures that could eclipse the heavens in the Flame God Realm, to be deemed as visitors greatly mocked them. In the Flame God Realm, this would have undoubtedly offended the 3. However, Yan Wangkang didn't become angry at all, and instead laughed along as he cupped his hands and said, "The 3 of us all know that our arrival this time is truly impertinent, but it is because we cannot help it. Several months ago, after this Yan was rejected by the Snow Song Realm King, this Yan was unwilling to give up and thus began trying to find methods to meet with the Snow Song Realm King again. Finally, several days ago, this Yan learned about the Great Sect Assembly and thus resorted to this measure. The reason for our personal appearances here today with our 3 juniors is to merely express our sincerity to the Snow Song Realm King and to also ask for the Snow Song Realm King to once again listen to this Yan's sincere and conscientious words." "Huo Poyun, why have you all still not gone up and greeted the Snow Song Realm King?" Phoenix Sect Master Yan Juhai asked. As Yun Wangkang's words finished, Yun Qi immediately understood why they had come. On the first day Yun Qi arrived in the Snow Song Realm, right when he left the freezing snow main hall, he had heard a sound which caused the entire Ice Phoenix realm to tremble. At the time, Bingyun explained that this sound originated from Vermilion Bird Sect Master Yan Wangkang, whose goal was to personally meet the Snow Song Realm King in order to plead for her to assistance in hunting the ancient dragon within the God-burying Inferno prison. Based on Yan Wangkang's words just now, Xuanian had completely ignored him that time. After all, the ancient horned dragon only shed its scales once every 1,000 years. If they missed this opportunity, they would have to wait another 1,000 years. Thus, as the molting period of the ancient dragon became ever closer, the 3 great sect masters of the Flame God Realm also became increasingly anxious. Because without Xuanian's strength, they couldn't possibly deal with the ancient horned dragon. Thus, upon learning about the Divine Ice Phoenix Sect's Great Sect Assembly, they had decided to become party crashers and make an appearance because they knew Xuanian would definitely appear. Only the 6 of them had come to express their sincerity, hoping to balance out the Snow Song Realm King's anger for their party crashing. Xuanian's anger was quite terrifying, and they had all experienced it before. Vermilion Bird Sect disciple Yan Zhu pays respects to the Snow Song Realm King. Phoenix Sect disciple Yan Mingxuan pays respects to the Snow Song Realm King. Golden Crow Sect disciple Huo Poyun pays respects to the Snow Song Realm King. The three disciples all lowered themselves to one knee as the elders and palace masters on both sides all turned their attentions to the three youths, their expressions not changing the slightest. For these youths to accompany the three sect masters, they naturally weren't normal. No one like these three could be found within the entire Divine Ice Phoenix sect as their cultivations, and the fiery auras emanating from their bodies were too strong and shocking for their young ages, which seemed to be no greater than 30, especially the youth named Yan Zhu, the person whose body exuded the aura of the vermilion bird. From his life aura, he had absolutely not reached 30 years of age yet, but his cultivation had actually reached the late stage of the divine tribulation realm. The flame god realm was indeed the flame god realm. This was the thought running through the minds of all the elders and palace masters. Although the flame god realm and snow song realm were both middle star realms, the overall strength of the snow song realm was indeed far worse. If one ignored the snow song realm king, Ice Phoenix sect master Xiaolan, then the divine Ice Phoenix sect was much worse off than any of the three great sects in terms of disciples, middle level, and upper levels forces. Moreover, the Snow Song realm only had the divine Ice Phoenix sect which stood out, whereas sects like it were everywhere in the Flame God realm. Outside of the three great sects, there was also the Fireglass sect, Sun Fiend Isle, and the Nine-Tailed Fox clan, etc. There were approximately 10 sects whose overall strengths were no lower than the divine Ice Phoenix sect. In history, the Flame God realm had always been considered one of the more powerful middle star realms, whereas the Snow Song realm had always been considered one of the weaker ones. However, this had changed due to Snow Song realm King Xiaolan. With the emergence of a divine master realm level power, Snow Song realm's status immediately took off, suddenly jumping to an upper level middle star realm and even slightly surpassing the Flame God realm. In the past, when Snow Song realm practitioners went to other middle star realms, they would be treated as ordinary people. But now, as soon as others heard the Snow Song realm, one would be treated with respect. Xiaolan was feared by all in the Snow Song realm, but the amount of reverence its people had for her was equally amazing. This was because she had completely changed the status of the Snow Song realm amongst the God realm by herself. Thus, in the Snow Song realm, she was truly considered to be a supreme, godlike existence. If not for Xiaolan's existence, why would these three dignified Flame God realm sect masters ever have personally come and acted so politely in the face of such coldness? How could they have restrained themselves from moving? Xiaolan's gaze swept across the three Flame God realm disciples as she indifferently said, HMPH, Yan Wangkang, Yan Zhuhai, if I guess correctly, the two youths by your sides should be your sons. Hearing the anger in Xiaolan's voice become slightly more restrained, Yan Wangkang's heartbeat slightly stabilized as he slightly smiled and said, Indeed, Zhuor is the child this Yan had 23 years ago. As for Mingxuan, he is the grandson of Sect Master Yan, whereas Poyun is a direct disciple Sect Master Huo has just accepted. We brought them here with us this time to let them visit the Snow Song realm and experience more things. 23 years ago, all of the Ice Phoenix elders took a deep breath of the cold air. This meant that this junior named Yan Zhou, who had cultivated to the 8th level of the Divine Tribulation realm, was only 23 years old. Yun Qi's gaze also suddenly moved onto the figure of the one named Yan Zhu, his heart filled with shock as well as admiration. But for some reason, he almost immediately turned to look towards Huo Ruli afterwards. Just then, Xiaolan had only asked about Yan Zhu and Yan Mingxuan and not Huo Poyun, who had been brought by Huo Ruli, as if she were certain Huo Poyun was definitely not blood related to Huo Ruli, and it was indeed like that. Yan Zhu and Yan Mingxuan were indeed the children of Yan Wangkang and Yan Zhuhai, but Huo Poyun was only a direct disciple. At this time, Huo Ruli's two hands not only deathly clenched together, they also clearly began to tremble. Yun Qi furrowed his brows and seemed lost in thought as he thought about the words Bingyun had once said. HMPH, he is indeed worthy of being your son, Yan Wangkang. I'm afraid this level of talent is unparalleled even within the entire Flame God realm. It seems like your Vermilion Bird Sect's young sect master is not a simple person, Xiaolan expressionlessly said. Ha, I thank the Snow Song Realm King's praise. Yan Wangkeng rambunctiously laughed as he said, "Zhuor, hurry up and go present our gift." "Yes, father." Yan Zhu responded and then walked forwards as he took out a box which released a faint fiery aura. Within the box was a seemingly wooden cup, which was completely crimson red. Yan Wangkeng said, "Although the three of us are visiting this time out of the frustration of being rejected time and time again, as we are intruding, and because we heard the news several days ago of the Snow Song Realm King's acceptance of a direct disciple." Yan Wangkeng glanced at Yun Qi. "This little gift is not only to show our apologies, but to also congratulate Snow Song Realm King on gaining a direct disciple. Please accept our humble present." "Oh," the bold crescent brows slightly straightened as Xiaolan indifferently said, "Chair, accept it." "Yes." Yun Qi moved forward, accepting the red box in Yan Zhu's hands and bringing it over to Xiaolan. Xiaolan didn't motion to receive it. In fact, she didn't even look to see what it contained as she coldly said, "I bestow it upon you." Zhuhai's expressions instantly stiffened as they secretly gasped. Although there was some fury in their hearts, they could do nothing about it. Since they had chosen to force their way in, they were quite aware of the consequences. Given how tyrannical Xiaolan was, her rage would not be dispelled so easily. "Yes, master." Yun Qi did not speak any further and kept the red wooden case as he groaned inside. A gift given to Snow Song Realm King by 3 great sect masters. How could it possibly be an ordinary item, could it? Really be given to him like this? It would be better to obediently return it to master after they left. Xiaolan's body leaned forward slightly, highlighting her alluring figure. However, there was still no one who dared to look directly at her beautiful body due to her cold and powerful presence. It seems the 3 sect masters are indeed full of sincerity. All right then, uninvited guests are still guests after all. If they were chased away in such a manner, would it not make this king appear unmagnanimous? This king will temporarily put aside the fact that you forced your way into the Snow Song Realm and interrupted the Great Sect Assembly. I will listen to what you have to say. However, Xiaolan's eyes slightly narrowed, this king will only give you 15 minutes. Yan Wangkeng took a step forward and spoke in a solemn manner. "Understood, the 3 of us thanks the Snow Song Realm King for giving us this opportunity." Yan Zhu, Yan Mingxuan, and Yan Poyun had already returned to their positions behind the 3 great sect masters. Huge waves stirred in their hearts. Everything they knew since they were young had been completely toppled over. The 3 great sect masters that reigned supreme in the Flame God realm were all present, yet they had actually become so cautious and careful before the Snow Song Realm King. Even after being mocked, they did not even dare to get angry. 15 minutes! These 2 words were clearly akin to a favor bestowed by a greater being onto a lesser one. Yet from Yan Wangkeng's expression and tone, it looked as if he was cheerfully receiving it. One could imagine how great a blow this was to them. Yan Wangkeng had long since prepared what he wanted to say and how it should be said. Without pondering, he straightaway said, "I believe the Snow Song Realm King already knows why the 3 of us have come here. That's right. We have come here again due to the matter of the ancient horned dragon in the God-burying Inferno prison. However, there is some difference from before." "How is it different?" Xiaolan's gaze was akin to ice arrows as she coldly asked. "Because a monumental event is about to occur. Moreover, it is extremely likely to affect the entire God realm." Yan Zhuhai quickly took over and said. His expression was very cautious. "Although we do not know exactly what it is, the voice of eternal heaven several months back and the profound God convention that is about to begin are clearly intended to inform the many worlds about the arrival of this monumental event. We believe that the Snow Song Realm King is also aware of this." "That's right." Yan Wangkeng heavily nodded his head. "Since the Eternal Heaven Realm has already sent out the call and even spared no effort to share the power of the Eternal Heaven Pearl with profound practitioners from other realms, one can see how important this is. It might even be a matter of life and death. Currently, the various great star realms are on high alert and have each made their own preparations. I've also heard that your esteemed sect has, for the first time, opened the heavenly Netherfrost Lake for several thousand disciples a few days ago. I believe that this action is also due to this matter. That horned dragon has been alive for at least several tens of thousands of years, and the dragon scales that cover its entire body are ultimate treasures that are hard to come by. If it is hunted and killed, it will surely result in an extremely large amount of resources for both our realms. The Snow Song Realm King's profound strength may astonish the world, but advancing from the Divine Master realm is extremely difficult. However, a horned dragon several tens of thousands of age is definitely enough to allow the Snow Song Realm King to take a step forward in her cultivation in a short period of time. Under the possibility of a monumental event occurring, this progress is far more significant than before. This is one of the reasons. Secondly, Yan Wangkeng continued to speak without pausing. 1,000 years ago, success was within our sights, yet we ultimately failed due to an unforeseen accident. However, that horned dragon was also gravely injured. Such injuries will not completely heal in the short span of 1,000 years. The three of us have likewise not been slacking off in the past 1,000 years and have all improved in our cultivation. The Snow Song Realm King is surely also far more powerful than 1,000 years ago. These facts, in addition to the injuries of the horned dragon, indicate that this is the best chance to hunt and kill it. If we miss this opportunity, it is extremely likely to make a full recovery after another 1,000 years. At that time, things will be much more difficult. With the Snow Song Realm King's divine might and the meager power of our Flame God Realm, I dare to say, Yan Wangkeng extended 2 fingers, that we have an 80% chance of killing the ancient horned dragon. At this point, Yan Wangkeng slowed down. 1,000 years ago, we promised that if we were successful, our 2 worlds would each receive half of the horned dragon's body. This time, we will still abide by that promise. After the horned dragon is killed, we will split it 50-50. After all, although the ancient horned dragon is in our Flame God Realm without the Snow Song Realm King's power, our Flame God Realm will not be able to kill it. After Yan Wangkeng's speech, Xiaolan did not reply for a long time. Her ice-cold face remained completely unchanged from start to end. "Have you said all that you've wanted to say?" Xiaolan coldly asked. Yan Wangkeng's heart slightly tightened. "Since you are done," Xiaolan straightened her body and solemnly said, "Huanji, see them out." Yan Wangkeng and Yan Juhai's faces changed at the same time, and Yan Wangkeng spoke in a loud voice. "Snow Song Realm King, what do you mean?" "What do I mean?" Xiaolan slowly stood up. As she stood up, the surrounding temperature fell, and the entire sky seemed to suddenly press down on them. "If the 3 of you had come here only to pay your respects, this king might have even given you due respect. However, you forcibly interrupt my Great Sect Assembly and still have the gall to mention the matter of the ancient horned dragon. Do you truly believe this king has forgotten the disgusting things that your Flame God Realm did 1,000 years ago?" This shout forced the 3 juniors of the Flame God Realm to stumble backward. Their expressions instantly turned white as a sheet, and they almost vomited blood. Ice-cold killing intent was reflected in Xiaolan's eyes, falling upon Huo Ruli, who had not spoken since the beginning. Crack! Huo Ruli's entire body was doused in flames. While the sound of teeth being shattered emerged from his mouth, however, he refused to speak. Even so, blood was already flowing out from the cracks between his fingers. In the face of Xiaolan's sudden rage and killing intent, although Yan Wangkeng and Yan Juhai were somewhat prepared, their hearts still suddenly tightened. Yan Wangkeng tried to maintain his calm as he spoke. "Snow Song Realm King, it was you who first heavily injured Sect Master Huo's only son back then." "Silence!" Xiaolan's gaze and killing intent abruptly shot towards Yan Wangkeng, causing his words to come to an abrupt stop. That ignorant junior recklessly approached the god-burying inferno prison with his pathetic cultivation. Even if this king did not take action, he would have died by the flames of the horned dragon. Although he was gravely injured due to this king, you clearly knew it was an accident. It is beneath this king to attack a junior in the first place. This king was ashamed by this matter from back then, and desired to make up for it with the Moon Phoenix Jade. Yet, this deceitful Huo Ruli schemed against this king's younger sister, and did not even hesitate to use the horned dragon's poison. This king injured him by accident, yet Huo Rulian used a sinister scheme in return. How can these 2 matters be compared? Yan Juhai clenched his teeth slightly and said in a deep voice, "Snow Song Realm King, our Flame God Realm was indeed in the wrong. However, after that matter back then, in your fury, you heavily injured several thousand members of our 3 sects, and destroyed the star realms under my Flame God Realm's control. Our losses are 10,000 times greater than your Snow Song Realm. What's more, the one that you injured was Sect Master Huo's only son. He had originally been a genius gifted by the heavens, but was crippled as a result. Although his life has been forcibly prolonged, and he can be said to barely live on, even standing has become difficult for him. It can even be said to be a life worse than death. Sect Master Huo was extremely infuriated as a result, which caused him to do such a heinous thing. HMPH? Muke Xuanian icily laughed. He was greedy to progress, resulting in internal burn injuries that made him unable to copulate. Yet he still shifts this grievance onto this king. Yun Qi's mouth was wide open. Only now did he more or less understand the grudge from 1,000 years ago. 1,000 years ago, the ancient horned dragon was in its scale-shedding period. Muke Xuanian had gone to the Flame God Realm and worked with the Flame God Realm to kill the ancient horned dragon. However, just as they were about to succeed, she accidentally injured Golden Crow Sect Master Huo Ruli's son, and it was his only son at that. At the same time, Huo Ruli's greed to progress at a certain stage of his cultivation led to backlash that injured his body and even made him incapable of copulating, which meant that he would never have other children. Hence, the one that Muke Xuanian had injured was his only son and his only descendant. Moreover, from the looks of it, these injuries were extremely serious, causing his son's entire body to be so crippled that even walking was difficult. His son had only survived until now because Huo Ruli had spared no effort in forcibly prolonging his son's life. Just like how Muke Xuanian had spared no effort to forcibly prolong Mu Bingyun's life for the past 1,000 years. It was also due to this, that in his extreme rage, Huo Ruli found a chance to scheme against Mu Bingyun, and did not even hesitate to use the horned dragon's poison from the horned dragon's body. Muke Xuanian had crippled his only son, and he had schemed against Muke Xuanian's only kin. Evidently, compared to Muke Xuanian accidentally injuring his son, Huo Ruli's vengeful plotting appeared exceptionally despicable. Yet, like the Golden Crow divine god, he naturally had a violent nature. Together with the fact that he could no longer copulate, and the fact that Muke Xuanian had destroyed not only his son, but severed their entire lineage, how could he not have lost control due to extreme anger? However, if Huo Ruli did not scheme in such a despicable manner, Mu Bingyun would not have fallen into the profound sky continent, and frozen cloud Asgard would not exist in the profound sky continent. He would also have not met Little Fairy. He would not have become the master of frozen cloud Asgard. He would not have so many debts of gratitude and grudges. He would not have followed Mu Bingyun to the god realm. Suddenly, Yun Qi felt a tiny bit of gratitude to Huo Ruli. Muke Xuanian? This shout was like an erupting volcano or a sudden clap of thunder that could flatten the land. Huo Ruli finally exploded after this wound of his was torn open again. The golden crow flames on his body instantly expanded dozens of feet as his eyes took on the color of pure gold. You have not forgotten my scheming against Mu Bingyun, and I, Huo Ruli, will never forget the hatred of you crippling my son even until death. I, Huo Ruli, am useless. I am unable to personally avenge my son, but if I manage to find a chance someday, I will definitely tear your corpse into 1,000 pieces. Huo Ruli furiously howled, causing the atmosphere to abruptly change. Many elders and palace masters shouted in rage as cold, murderous intent instantly unfurled like a storm. Yan Wangkeng and Yan Juhai turned pale with fear. Yan Wangkeng swiftly stood in front of Huo Rulian, blocking the latter as he hastily said, Snow Song Realm King, Sect Master Huo is easily enraged by nature, and it was a rude slip of the tongue. We will leave immediately. Please forgive us, Snow Song Realm King. Meanwhile, Yan Juhai secretly transmitted to Huo Ruli, Disgraceful, have you gone matey? This is Snow Song Realm's territory. Have you not experienced enough of Muke Xuanian's terror? What did you promise us before we came here? You promised that you would absolutely not mention the grudge from back then. That's because the one that was crippled was not your son. Huo Ruli's words were not secretly transmitted, but were a roar filled with endless hatred and feelings that were far from that of resignation. He was indeed unresigned, incomparably unresigned. His only son was eternally crippled, while he had secretly schemed against Muke Xuanian's only kin with the horned dragon's poison. He had believed all along that she was surely dead, resulting in a kind of twisted equilibrium in his heart. However, some time ago, he suddenly heard that Muke Xuanian had found a method to save her sister. In a short few months, she had allowed Mu Bingyun to make an almost complete recovery. Meanwhile, he had prolonged his son's life for 1,000 years and was now at his wit's end. His son was on the verge of death and could die at any time. Huo Ruli pushed Yan Wangkeng aside and directly faced Muke Xuanian. Layers of ice melted under his fury and raging flames. Muke Xuanian, if this old man reaches the Divine Master Realm one day, the first thing I will do is kill you. With you alone. Xunian's voice was full of extreme disdain and ridicule. Ha 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 ha, Huo Ruli loudly laughed in a crazed manner. As long as I, Huo Ruli, am not dead, I will make you die one day. If you have the guts, kill me now. Do you think that this king does not dare to? Xunian took a step forward as winter descended on the world. Huo Ruli, you should truly celebrate the fact that this king's sister, Bingyun, is now safe and sound. Back then, this king vowed that if anything happened to Bingyun, it would be the day that this king abdicated her throne, which would also be the day that your Golden Crow sect is destroyed. Since Bingyun is now safe and sound, I will spare Golden Crow sect. Xunian extended her hand, and an icy aura formed out of nowhere pierced everyone's soul like a poisonous needle. Your death will be enough. Xunian's earlier anger was already enough to cause people to lose their color, so when she suddenly released murderous intent, everyone instantly became even more scared. Because the murderous intent was coming from the Snow Song Realm King. Wait, please listen a second to this, Yan. Yan Wangkang anxiously shouted as he solemnly stepped forward. By now, he was extremely regretting bringing Huo Ruli along. After all, the reason only 6 of them had come was because they didn't want to seem hostile and menacing. They had only come about the matter of the horned dragon. And yet, even when their side was weak, even when they were in the midst of the Ice Phoenix realm, Huo Ruli still dared to give no face to Xunian in front of everyone else, speaking especially harsh words. They couldn't even think of anything worse that could have happened. Huo Ruli's head must have become filled with shit. Xunian's murderous intent not only terrified and shocked Yan Wangkang and Yan Juhai, but also the 2 rows of elders as Mu Huanji quickly yelled, Sect Master. Let's listen to what Sect Master Yan has to say. However, by this time, Xunian's figure had already rushed forward like a gale wind. Retreat! Yan Wangkang screamed loudly as a fiery light burst from his body, and a giant wave of energy pushed Yan Zhu, Yan Mingxuan, and Huo Poyun far, far away. Form the formation! 72 elders simultaneously flew into the sky, instantly creating a huge barrier of ice crystals. The moment Xunian moved, the entire courtyard went out of control. Only Yun Qi stood still where he was, the expression on his face not one full of panic, but that of one lost in thought. Because he could see clearly that the person who had caused this situation to go out of control was not Huo Ruli but Xunian. Yan Wangkang had been sincere enough, even giving his respects as he remained calm and polite. Yet in exchange, Xunian had coldly reprimanded him, taking the initiative to bring up old conflicts and stoke the hard-to-endure fires of hatred within Huo Ruli. As if this itself wasn't enough, she had also completely exposed all of the matters which shouldn't be exposed to everyone here. For such matters to be made public, it was impossible for a man to bear, let alone the Golden Crow sect master. Moreover, with the burden of the Golden Crow flames, Huo Ruli's temperament was already like a volcano. If he hadn't exploded in anger and lost control, it would have been strange. Xunian must have had a deep understanding of Huo Ruli's temperament, as there was no way she would have done what she had if she wasn't certain Huo Ruli would become enraged and go mad. The only explanation for her actions was that she had done it on purpose. However, outside of this moment, the insults thrown would have no other benefits for the relationship between the Snow Song and Flame God realms. Yet at this moment, the only feeling Xunian gave Yun Qi was one of extreme unfathomless, and it wasn't only her profound energy which felt unfathomable. After all, even the Ice Phoenix itself had said that Xunian was extremely wise. Why would she go so far to incite Huo Ruli? Was it to create a reason for killing him? No. If she really wanted to kill Huo Ruli, then he would already have died. Moreover, as she had not killed Huo Ruli during the 1,000 years when Mu Bingyun was suffering, then she had even less of a reason to kill him now that Mu Bingyun had recovered. After all, Xunian had just stated that in the past, she had vowed that if Mu Bingyun died, the day she abdicated as Realm King would be the day the Golden Crow sect vanished. These 1,000 years, she had vowed to kill Huo Ruli, but only after she abdicated her position as Realm King. Clearly, as Realm King, she still had to consider the Snow Song realm in her actions, as, if the Snow Song and Flame God realms truly came into bloody conflict, she herself would be fine, but the Snow Song realm would definitely meet tragedy. Yet now just what? As these thoughts flashed through Yun Qi's mind, Xunian had already reached Huo Ruli. You think I'm scared? Huo Ruli's entire body erupted in flames as he roared in anger, the cry of a golden crow resonating through the sky. At the same time, raging waves of scarlet-red flames went to meet Xiaolan. At this point, Yan Wangkang and Yan Juhai couldn't help but also bite the bullet and make their own moves as they both appeared beside Huo, Ruli, Vermilion Bird, and Phoenix flames erupting from their bodies. The three flames of primordial gods simultaneously shot into the pale sky at Xiaolan, turning the sky into a mass of crimson red. As for the three flame god realm disciples who had been sent flying by Yan Wangkang, they remained kneeling on the ground where they were, their eyes wide as they observed from a distance. This was the first time in their lives that they had seen the three great sect masters working together to deal with a single person, and it was even a female. As for Yun Qi, his gaze was locked firmly on the figure of Yan Wangkang. The flames of the Golden Crow were so fierce they were uncontrollable. They were without a doubt the flames with the most intensity and incinerating power. Although Phoenix flames were more mild in comparison, they still naturally had the ability to burn everything. Yet the feeling Yan Wangkang's Vermilion Bird flames gave Yun Qi was even milder, one which could even just be considered warmth. This was the number one flame of the three great flames, the one called the Holy Flame, the Vermilion Bird flames feared by all devils. The combined three flames of the three flame god realm sect masters was undoubtedly the most powerful attack in the flame god realm. The terrifying strength of the flames caused even Yun Qi to feel completely unable to breathe. As for Xiaolan, who directly faced these three divine flames, she merely casually stuck out the palm of her hand, of just her left hand. Time suddenly seemed to slow. Even the weakest disciples of Divine Ice Phoenix sect could clearly see Xiaolan's snowy hand reach out and slowly open, revealing her white jade palm which was whiter than snow, and then gently push forward. They watched as a nearly invisible icy blue flower of light went forward to meet the three divine flames which seemed to be burning the world. The scene looked like a blue firefly charging into an erupting volcano. Ding! The instant the weak blue light collided with the divine flames, which seemingly covered the sky, everyone's hearts all simultaneously clenched, but no sound of profound energy explosion could be heard. Instead, at this moment, everything seemed to have suddenly become fixed in place as the blue light stopped flickering, and the three divine flames completely stopped rolling forward. It was like time had suddenly and completely stopped. The only signs which showed that time was still passing were the violently trembling pupils of the three flame god realm sect masters. This unbelievable freeze frame remained for 3 short breaths before the blue light suddenly flickered and dissipated with a gentle sound. Then the light red Vermilion Bird flames, the deep red Phoenix flames, and golden red Golden Crow flames all quickly turned a deep blue color in the blink of an eye. What? Yun Qi was so shocked his mind trembled. The flames were the product of the combined flames of all 3 flame god realm sect masters, yet they had actually been turned to ice. Xiaolan's expression remained cold and still, devoid of any emotion. As for Yan Wangkang and Yan Juhai, their expressions were both bitter, while Huo Ruli's face now contained some obvious traces of fear within the anger. Bang! The frigid ice exploded, suddenly covering the sky with countless flying shards of ice. In this instant, Yan Wangkang and Yan Juhai were simultaneously sent flying. Yan Wangkang's feet scraped against the ground as he slid hundreds of meters backwards until his back heavily collided with the ice barrier condensed by the combined energies of the Ice Phoenix Elders. As for Yan Juhai, he flew into the barrier on the other side and was left kneeling on the ground. He remained that way for quite a while before standing up, and when he finally did get up, his hands both covered in a thin layer of ice. Although this layer of ice seemed thin and fragile, Yan Juhai had to desperately incite his phoenix flames several times to slowly melt all of it. However, Huo Ruli was much less fortunate than the two of them, as a streak of blue light penetrated through space whilst the ice exploded, destroying the profound energy protecting Huo Ruli's body, silently piercing through his chest. An extremely painful moan escaped Huo Ruli's lips as his body was sent tumbling through the air. As he flew, a long arrow of blood formed from the blood spurting out of his wound. He smashed into the ground hundreds of meters away. Before the arrow of blood could land, it melted back into blood. Whoosh! A windstorm whistled as a catastrophic blizzard descended on the courtyard. Xiaolan floated in midair, enveloping herself in the eye of the storm as she coldly looked down at Huo Ruli, who was painfully twitching in the frost. The entire palace courtyard was silent. The 3 disciples brought by the 3 sect masters were all dazed where they were unable, or perhaps not daring, to believe what they had seen. Although it heard of the Snow Song Realm King's peerless might long ago, they had never imagined that the three sect masters, who were unparalleled in the flame god realm, whom they viewed as gods, would be beaten into such tragic states by the Snow Song Realm King. It was even more impossible for them to accept it, and the defeat had been so fast and so thorough. In the short span of several breaths, two of them had been sent flying, and the third, Huo Ruli, had been severely wounded. They finally realized why in the past the flame god realm had chosen to swallow its anger after Xiaolan destroyed all of the star realms under its control, even though the flame god realm was clearly tens of times stronger than the Snow Song realm. Yun Qi's mouth was gaping open. Only a while later did it finally close. His entire chest felt like it was filled with cold air. Although Bingyun had already mentioned that the three flame god realm sect masters together were still not a match for the Snow Song realm king on his first day in the Snow Song realm, Yun Qi had never imagined that the gap was so wide. The three great sect masters were each equal in strength to a realm king of a middle star realm, yet they couldn't even endure a single one of Xiaolan's attacks. It was definitely not that the three sect masters were too weak. Xiaolan was just too terrifyingly strong. Her power was perhaps no less than a fully restored jasmine. Yun Qi trembled as this thought silently passed through his mind. "Master?" Anxious and panicking, Huo Poyun mindlessly rushed to Huo Ruli's side. Upon seeing that Huo Ruli's injury was nothing too serious, Huo Poyun felt slightly relieved even though Huo Ruli's face was still a pale white, and his entire body was radiating cold. Nonetheless, Huo Poyun's heart was still uncontrollably trembling. Without observing it themselves, no one from the Flame God realm would ever believe that the Snow Song realm's great realm king was terrifying to such an extent. She was an existence that was on a completely different level than the three sect masters. "Snow Song Realm King, please have mercy," Yan Wangkang desperately screamed. "We definitely did not come here with any hostile intentions." "Sect Master, please calm down." Bingyun had already rushed out to beside Xiaolan. She slowly nodded her head. "Killing Huo Ruli is not beneficial to either of our realms. I beg for the Snow Song Realm King to think carefully." Yan Juhai stood up, his two frostbitten hands still quivering as he said, "We only came because of the matter of the horned dragon. We definitely did not come here with the intention of provoking you." Xiaolan completely ignored the two, but did indeed stay her hand as she coldly glared at Huo Ruli and emotionlessly taunted him. "Huo Ruli, this king had thought that you had become stronger these past years, as you dared to bark wildly in front of this king. Yet your bark indeed still has no bite behind it." "Xiaolan," Huo Ruli's hand propped against the ground as his two scarlet-red eyes seemingly exploded. However, as soon as words came out of his mouth, Yan Wangkang screamed, "Huo Ruli, shut the hell up!" Yan Juhai gritted his teeth as he also turned to Huo Ruli and said, "Huo Ruli, if you want to die, don't drag us along with you. If you are so easily angered by just a couple phrases, you have wasted your time alive all these years. It hasn't been long since you accepted a direct disciple, one who you personally said was like your own child, yet right now, you are about to cause him to die." Yan Juhai seriously wanted to go over and give Huo Ruli several slaps, and then also slap himself several times. He knew that Huo Ruli's anger had never been dispelled these last 1,000 years. Moreover, he also knew that Huo Ruli had a fit upon learning that Bingyun had completely recovered. Yet he still brought Huo Ruli along this time. His head must have been filled with shit. Yan Juhai's voice was like a bucket of ice water thrown onto Huo Ruli's face. Huo Ruli's teeth clenched, releasing cracking sounds, but, looking at Huo Poyun beside him, Huo Ruli finally swallowed the curses in his mouth along with the blood. All right, Huo Ruli's voice trembled as he said, "Xiaolan, I will admit my defeat today. I was my own undoing. Indeed, in front of you, all I am is a piece of garbage. I can't defeat you, I couldn't rescue my son, and I couldn't even properly get revenge for him. However, there is one thing which you, Xiaolan, will never match me at." Huo Ruli's voice suddenly became louder as he shouted with coarse breaths. "Your Snow Song realm, outside of yourself, will never be able to compare to my Flame God realm. In your pitiful Snow Song realm, you can't even find someone to pass your techniques on to. I truly cannot compare to you, but that is just me. Once I've died, and once you've died, your successor and their successor will only ever be able to kneel at the feet of my successors. They will never be able to match up, ha 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 ha." Ruli was evidently trying to find a psychological balance after suffering such humiliation, as forceful as it may have been. Though every single person of Divine Ice Phoenix sect was enraged, at the same time, none of them were not ashamed or dispirited, because Huo Ruli's words had firmly struck Snow Song Realm's sore point. For these 10,000 years, Xiaolan alone was the reason why the Snow Song Realm could stay this mighty among the Middle Star realms. Without Xiaolan, their status would fall from the upper levels to the lower levels of the Middle Star realms, and they would completely lose the power to match the Flame God realm. If this idiot doesn't stop his mouth now. Even with Yan Wangkang's 10,000 years of cultivation, he wished that he could just step forward and kick Huo Ruli right in the head. Xiaolan was already filled with killing intent in the first place. He shouted that it was his defeat and that he was his own undoing just earlier, yet in the next moment, he suddenly began to mock her right in her face. Furthermore, he even included the entire Snow Song realm. However, what shocked Yan Wangkang was, in the face of Huo Ruli's mockery, Xiaolan did not burst into fury. That dreamily beautiful, yet heart-chilling face broke into an ice-cold, scornful smile. Huo Ruli, this king suddenly realized how pitiful you truly are right now, pitiful to the point where even this king suddenly deems it distasteful to kill you. Xiaolan's gaze slowly swept towards Huo Poyun, who was next to Huo Ruli. That short moment of chilling light instantly stiffened Huo Poyun's body, and even after a long while, he did not dare to even fidget the slightest bit. It's understandable that Sect Master Yan Wangkang and Sect Master Yan Juhai brought their own grandsons over for their first visit to my Snow Song realm. Yet Huo Ruli, you brought a disciple along with you. This king figured that you might have done it to make up the numbers, but it's actually for that pitiful bit of sense of balance in your heart. After hearing that this king has taken in a new direct disciple, you especially brought your own direct disciple to flaunt. The mighty sect master of Golden Crow sect actually has to rely on his disciple to make a desperate struggle to grasp that pathetic bit of pride. It sure is something that made this king take pity on you. Looking at Xiaolan's back figure, Yun Qi once again was stunned. Even her words were so venomous. When his own new master was facing the three great sect masters of the Flame God realm, it was simply as if she was poking fun at three little mice. Yun Qi was beginning to feel immense pressure. Was his decision to make Xiaolan his master a huge blessing or a huge disaster? Back then, when he had Jasmine as his master, though there was an extremely huge difference in strength, Jasmine had to depend on his life and the Sky Poison Pearl. Their two figures were never separated and could be said to be a single body. There had never been something like sense of distance between them, nor was there ever a need to worry that she would kill or harm him. As for Xiaolan, however, with her terrifying temperament and strength, the thought of killing him might just occur because of a sudden irritable mood. Furthermore, she wouldn't even need to even lift her finger to do it, as he could be exterminated several times over with just a single blow of her breath. Huo Ruli's face was crimson red, either from the surge of bad blood from his injuries or from the anger he was forcefully holding in. However, he still laughed arrogantly. That's right. Huo Ruli might not be able to beat you Xiaolan for the rest of my life. Ever since you crippled my son back then and I was unable to take revenge, I no longer have the slightest bit of dignity in front of you. However, whenever I think that your successors will never be able to beat my successors, that after this generation, your successors in the future generations to come will forever have to kneel before mine, I feel incredibly refreshed. Absolutely refreshed, I say. Ha 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 ha. The faces of every single person in Divine Ice Phoenix sect turned green, mixed with embarrassment and anger. However, when they looked at Huo Poyun, who was brought along by Huo Ruli, and then turned to glance at Yun Qi, who was standing absolutely still, every single one of them secretly sighed and shook their heads. Xiaolan had 8 direct disciples in these past 10,000 years. Though all of them possessed incredible talents, had achieved impressive feats, and a large half of them had even become sect masters of the various branch sects of Divine Ice Phoenix sect. When compared to the direct disciples of the sect masters of the Flame God realm, they were still lacking by a huge margin. After all, though Xiaolan was incredibly powerful, she was the biggest anomaly in the several 100,000 years of Snow Song Realm's history. Furthermore, because of the restrictions in terms of the divine blood inheritance and environment, the resources of profound practitioners in the upper, middle, and even the lower levels of Snow Song Realm were a far cry from the profound practitioners of the Flame God realm. This was a truth every single person knew. the new direct disciple Xiaolan took in this time, was even from the lower realms, and he had merely just entered the divine origin realm as well. It was no wonder Huo Ruli would forcefully bring his own direct disciple along after hearing this news. Yun Qi secretly sighed. This Huo Ruli is freaking crazy. When did your daddy here ever offend you? Xiaolan was still not angry. Her voice had instead turned sluggish. Like I said, you truly are pitiful and pathetic. Huo Ruli, just where did you get the confidence to suggest that your successor can beat this king's successor? Aren't you afraid that in the end, that little bit of pitiful face that you have left will be thrown away under this king's feet? Yan Wangkeng and Yan Juhai were speechless from hearing her words. Their eyes happened to sweep towards Yun Qi at the same time. From these two gazes, Yun Qi instantly felt as if two suns had shone past his body. Such terrifying auras, Yun Qi was stunned in his heart. However, such terrifying people were still seemingly vulnerable under Xiaolan's hands. Yun Qi looked at Xiaolan's back, growing even more nervous. The shaking Huo Ruli stood up from the ground, and Huo Poyun hurriedly stepped forward to support him. However, Huo Ruli pushed him away, and he stood there firmly, coldly laughing. What? Could it be that you're trying to say that this king's disciple can't be compared against your disciple? HMPH? Xiaolan let out an extremely disdainful snort and scornfully said, "Let's set aside my disciple for now. Just based on the new disciple you took in, he's not even worthy of bringing this king's new disciple his shoes." When these words fell, not just the 6 people from the Flame God realm, every single person in Divine Ice Phoenix sect was jaw-droppingly stunned. Sect Master! Huanji, who was nearest to Xiaolan, reached out his hand and softly called out, his skin crawling. Though Huo Poyun had the weakest profound strength out of the 3 youths brought by the Flame God realm, he was still already at the 5th level of the Divine Tribulation realm. Furthermore, his life aura was especially youthful, indicating that he was definitely below the age of 25. Furthermore, for Huo Ruli to have taken him as his direct disciple and to have brought him over to flaunt, he most definitely had incredible attainments in the laws of fire. Not to mention, he definitely possessed a direct or side inheritance of the Golden Crow's bloodline, no matter how. He was not someone Yun Qi, who had just entered the divine origin realm, could go toe-to-toe with. Huo Ruli's eyes were staring wide, the muscles on his face began to twitch. Following after, he let out a thunderous, arrogant laughter. Ha 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 ha. He, not even worth bringing his shoes. Huo Ruli reached out his hand and pointed his finger straight at Yun Qi, as though he had just heard the most ridiculous joke in his entire life. Based on him. Just based on him alone. Ha 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 ha. Bingyun's brows tightly furrowed as she hurriedly sent a sound transmission to Xiaolan. Elder sister, what are you doing? If you state such a thing, aren't you giving Huo Ruli control of the situation? Just as she sent the voice transmission, Xiaolan's voice resounded in her soul, causing her to stay silent. That's right, just based on the new direct disciple I took in, standing behind this king. Not only did Xiaolan not retract her words, she once again repeated them with a solemn voice. That disciple of yours isn't even worthy of bringing him his shoes. Yun Qi. Bingyun's words had immediately come true. How could Huo Ruli, who was carrying a stomach full of fury and hatred, not grasp onto the reins of the conversation which Xiaolan had just let go of? He let out a heaven-shaking roar. Good, well said. Since you claim that my disciple isn't even worthy of bringing him his shoes, then do you dare have him compete against my disciple? Huo Ruli! Huanji could no longer stay calm as he roared out heavily. Don't take things too far. Sect Master Huo, this is really inappropriate, Yan Wangkeng said solemnly as well. Huo Ruli, however, took a step forward, his voice reverberated in all 4 directions. Taking things too far. Who's the one taking things too far? Xiaolan, do you dare? Do you dare? Ha 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 ha. He knew Xiaolan definitely would not dare to do so, which was why he was laughing so joyfully. This was the first time in his life where he held the upper hand when facing Xiaolan, and it was even Xiaolan herself who had offered it. Sect Master Huo, enough. Yan Wangkeng held onto Huo Ruli's arm and then said to Xiaolan, Snow Song Realm King, we will not disturb you any longer and shall take our leave now. The matter concerning the ancient horned dragon benefits both our sects, so we hope that Snow Song Realm King will consider it carefully. We bid you farewell. Wait a minute. Huo Ruli shook off Yan Wangkeng's hand. His fiery eyes stared straight at Xiaolan. Xiaolan. Never did I expect that the Snow Song Realm King would make such an outrageous and laughable claim just for the sake of the slightest bit of face, and to disgrace others. Mukshunian, even you have a day where I, Huo Ruli, can look down upon you. You might as well openly admit it now, so I can still think somewhat highly of you. Not just today, in these 10,000 years, Huo Ruli had always been the one being suppressed in front of Mukshunian. On this day, where he had such an extremely rare opportunity to slap Mukshunian in the face, how could he possibly let go of it? Mukshunian slightly narrowed her eyes and coldly said, "You're not going to shed a tear until you see the coffin, huh? Fine, since you insist so, then this king shall grant you your wish." Mukshunian's snowy figure shook as she turned around. "Chair, go on and have a spar with this so-called great disciple of Sect Master Huo. Though he's a visitor, there's no need to show any mercy." Every single person in Divine Ice Phoenix Sect was stunned, and several elders stepped forward at the same time. "Sect Master, silence!" Mukshunian coldly commanded. The elders who had just taken half a step forward instantly shrank back, not daring to say another word. "Yes, Master." Xianxia walked out with forced calm, however. His feet were trembling and his skin was crawling. Huo Poyun, who was brought along by Huo Ruli, was comparable to him in age, but the aura of his profound strength was not weaker than Muhani in the slightest. In other words, his profound strength was at least in the middle stage of the Divine Tribulation realm as well. This was the Divine Tribulation realm they were talking about. How the hell was he going to fight that? By relying on Star God's broken shadow, he could probably barely hold on for a short while, and it would just be barely. However, since he could not even use the Star God's broken shadow, the only conclusion from exchanging blows with Huo Poyun was instant defeat. The fright of the entire Divine Ice Phoenix sect and the uneasiness in Xianxia's eyes all fell under Huo Ruli's eyes. He widely threw out his hand. "Poyun, go on and get some experience from this great disciple whom this Snow Song Realm King claimed that you're not even worthy of bringing his shoes to." "Ha ha ha ha. Yes, Master." Huo Poyun respectfully responded and then walked forward. Huo Poyun stood firmly as he faced Xianxia from afar. However, when he sensed that Xianxia's profound strength was just at the first level of Divine Origin realm, someone who had clearly just entered the Divine Way not too long ago, his expression turned a little complicated. He entered the Divine Way at the age of 14 and broke through into the Divine Soul realm at the age of 17. He was now 24 years old, and it had been exactly 7 years since he last exchanged blows with someone at the Divine Origin realm, let alone someone who had just entered the Divine Origin realm. Facing Xianxia, who was just at the first level of Divine Origin realm, though he was the new direct disciple of the Snow Song Realm King, he truly found it a little hard to make a move. "This one is Flame God Realm Golden Crow Sex Huo Poyun." Huo Poyun faced Xianxia as he gently said with courtesy, "What is the name of my esteemed opponent?" "Xianxia. I was born in a lower realm, but am now a disciple of the Divine Ice Phoenix sect," Xianxia politely replied. In his mind, however, he was repeatedly pondering over the possible intentions of Mukshunian. "Xianxia," Huo Ruli suddenly began to laugh, "to think that you would be surnamed Yun while my disciple's name is Poyun Breaking Cloud. It is truly well suited for the occasion, ha ha ha." "Huo Ruli, are you not afraid of losing your tongue if you laugh so loudly?" Mukshunian's gaze became frosty. "Yuner, begin." At number %, Xianxia could only bite the bullet as he moved his body and took a fighting stance. After all, his opponent was in the Divine Tribulation realm. Even if he were 10 times stronger, he would still not be an opponent for Huo Poyun. What exactly were Mukshunian's intentions? It couldn't be that she wanted him to intentionally make a fool of himself, right? Huo Poyun slightly cupped his hands as a fiery glow enveloped his body. "Please enlighten me." Although he took a fighting stance, he naturally would wait for Xianxia to make the first move. After all, he was a dignified practitioner in the middle stage of the Divine Tribulation realm. How could he take initiative to make the first move against someone who had just entered the Divine Origin realm? The arrow had already been drawn. Thus, Xianxia already had no way of backing out. It was impossible for him to just duke it out, and in terms of strategies, the difference in their strengths was just too great. Moreover, with everyone observing him and Mukshunian's prestige at stake, he felt like even if he had suddenly grown 10 more heads, he still wouldn't be able to find a method to win. "Sect Master." Right as Xianxia's heart became ablaze with flames of nervousness, a cold voice containing hints of gentleness suddenly resonated from nearby as Bingyun walked forward and calmly said, This is still the sacred hall. We should not fight here. Moreover, both sides are direct disciples who were chosen with utmost care. In a clash between ice and fire, it is extremely easy to accidentally cause serious injuries. If such were to happen, it would be an irreparable loss for both sect masters. What? You want to forcibly call it off? Huo Ruli sneered. How could we go back on the words said by our sect master? Bingyun's brows knit together. However, this is my sect's sacred hall, not a fighting arena. Furthermore, your disciples are only clashing for superiority and not for each other's lives. In this case, why don't we just use a simpler method? Fairy Bingyun, please speak, Yan Wangkeng quickly replied. Bingyun turned to Huo Ruli and the other two and indifferently said, My sect's core profound art is the Ice Phoenix God investiture canon, whereas Golden Crow sects is the renowned Golden Crow's record of the burning world. So why not let our two disciples demonstrate their sect's core profound art? The two will move several hundred meters away from each other, and each one will have 3 opportunities to use their sect's core profound art to attack the other. The one defending can only defend. Once each side has made their 3 attacks, the outcome will be decided by scoring. As such, we can avoid a nasty clash. Let us use each sect's profound art to determine the end of this matter. Before Bingyun had even finished speaking, Yan Wangkeng had already begun to nod in agreement as he said, Fairy Bingyun's idea is so clever. Not only does it touch on all of the major points, such as avoiding injuries and ruining the atmosphere, it also presents us with a realistic way to compete. Sect Master Huo, if you must really force a competition, then let it be like this. As Yan Wangkeng spoke, his eyes glared at Huo Ruli, seemingly hinting, after all, he simply couldn't agree more with the rules proposed by Bingyun, because this was the domain of the Snow Song realm. With Xiaolan's personality, if these two disciples were to truly begin fighting, regardless of who won or lost, there would be severe consequences. Thus, this more moderate method was clearly countless times better. Good, very good. Huo Ruli didn't hesitate as he slowly nodded his head. This will also prevent certain people from becoming too ugly and angry, however. The sound of Huo Ruli's voice abruptly changed. Since we are letting our disciples compete to end this matter, how can we not bet? Xiaolan, if my disciple who isn't even worthy of carrying your disciple's shoes were to somehow win, what should happen? What do you want? Xiaolan's face was expressionless. Ha, it's very simple, Huo Ruli laughed. If my disciple, who isn't even worthy of carrying your disciple's shoes, were to win, then you must acknowledge that you, Xiaolan, are inferior to me, Huo Ruli, in front of everyone here. Huo Ruli once again put emphasis on not worthy of being able to carry his shoes, to remind Xiaolan again and again of the words that she had personally said, words which had come out of her own mouth. Huo Ruli, you, Xianxia shouted in fury. What about me? Huo Ruli retorted. Your sect master personally said my disciple wasn't even worthy of carrying her disciple's shoes. How could she be afraid of losing? She won't dare to not accept? You, Xianxia's body quivered as the veins on his forehead bulged out. Compared to Xianxia's agitated state, Xiaolan still seemed calm and emotionless as she coldly asked, Then what if this king's disciple were to win? Win? The corners of Huo Ruli's mouth rose and his eyes narrowed as he responded, Then I will do whatever you command without hesitation. Huo Ruli, Yan Wangkeng exclaimed in shock. However, he had just shouted when Xiaolan's voice abruptly cut him off. Good, remember what you said. A frosty glint flashed through Xiaolan's icy pupils. I, Huo Ruli, am a man of my word. I will never take them back. Huo Ruli ignored Yan Wangkeng as he solemnly said, I'm just afraid you will not dare to accept. You two aren't even worthy of me being afraid. Xiaolan gently waved her palm, instantly causing the blizzard to subside as her voice spread across the entire space. If this king's disciple loses to your disciple, this king will personally acknowledge here and now that I am inferior to you. Happy? All right. Huo Ruli slowly nodded his head as his pair of fiery eyes opened wide. Ah! Having been obstructed again and again, Yan Wangkeng could only sigh as he watched the situation continuously develop to this point. He helplessly turned to Huo Ruli and said, Xiaolan is absolutely not an impulsive person who would do anything to maintain face. She is even less of a person who would dig their own hole and jump into it. You, alas. As all kinds of nasty words had already been said, it was useless for him to say any more. HMPH, could it be that you believe that that garbage disciple she took in can compare to my Poyun? Huo Ruli solemnly asked. Yan Wangkeng was speechless. From what he knew, there were several talented disciples younger than 30 in Divine Ice Phoenix sect whose profound strength had reached the Divine Tribulation realm. Yet Mu Xuanian had chosen someone who had been born in a lower realm. Moreover, the profound strength of the person she had chosen as her direct disciple had just entered the divine way. As such, it was clear that this Yun Qi definitely had something extraordinary about him. Perhaps Yun Qi was extremely wise, or perhaps he had an abnormal physique. Perhaps he was especially gifted in manipulating ice. Regardless, considering he only had a cultivation of the divine origin realm, there was absolutely no way for him to match with the middle stage divine tribulation realm Huo Poyun, no matter how much Yan Wangkang thought about it. He wasn't the slightest bit of doubt in regards to Yun Qi losing. Moreover, the two were competing in sect profound arts. The difference between them could only be described as a world of difference. Regardless of whether it was the Golden Crow's record of the burning world or the Ice Phoenix God investiture canon, the power and control that could be exerted was greatly related to the strength of one's bloodline. Huo Poyun was the direct inheritor of the Golden Crow's bloodline. As for the inheritance of the bloodline of the Snow Song Realm's Ice Phoenix, it could just be ignored. After all, the greatest reason why the total strength of the Snow Song Realm was only a tenth of the Flame God Realm was the great restrictions over the inheritance of the Ice Phoenix bloodline. Let me remind you again, this is the Snow Song Realm. Although Yan Wangkang believed it was impossible for Huo Poyun to lose, he also couldn't put down the fear in his heart when he thought about Mu Xuanian's character. So what if Poyun wins? Do you truly believe that Mu Xuanian will admit in front of everyone that she is inferior to you? I can't wait for her to eat her own words. Huo Ruli quietly said. If she dares to not admit it, unless she dares to keep all of us here for the rest of our lives, I will definitely let the entire God realm know what happened here today. I will let the entire God realm know that Mu Xuanian is someone who spouts outrageous nonsense and lies. It can be considered me helping my son vent his frustrations. Yan Wangkang shook his head but remained silent. However, his heart still felt like something was wrong. As for Yun Qi, he had suddenly calmed down at this time. Amidst his worrying, his mind had become flooded with coldness. The machinations of the mind were so terrifying. Huo Ruli had been played like a monkey the whole time, yet he still didn't know it. However, for Mu Xuanian to incite Huo Ruli and then cause his emotions to go out of control bit by bit. Just what exactly did she want to achieve? The faces of the elders and palace masters on both sides were pale. On one side stood Yun Qi, and on the other stood Huo Poyun. The thoughts running through their minds were the same ones which had been going through Yun Qi's when he had first walked out. How the FCK was Yun Qi supposed to fight? Moreover, Yun Qi had just completed his discipleship ceremony today, and had yet to obtain the blood of the Ice Phoenix God. It was impossible for him to display the Ice Phoenix God investiture canon. Just what was the sect master doing? Could it be that once the words had been said, she couldn't help but accept under Huo Ruli's continued attacks? It seemed like this could be the only explanation. Huo Ruli, remember what you said just now, Mu Xuanian solemnly said. Let it begin. Please enlighten me. Huo Poyun once again took a fighting stance, and it was clearly a defensive posture. Wait. At this time, another voice suddenly interrupted them as Mu Hanni's figure flickered, leaving behind an extremely beautiful blue light as he gently floated to beside Yun Qi. Mu Hanni deeply saluted Mu Xuanian and then turned to Huo Ruli, saying, Sect Master Huo, this junior is Divine Ice Phoenix Sect's Mu Hanni. It might be presumptuous, but I would like for Sect Master Huo to let me say something. Mu Xuanian's brows slightly furrowed, but she remained silent. Ah, Huo Ruli sneered. It was clear that he thought Mu Hanni was someone whom Mu Xuanian had silently arranged for to come out to disrupt the clash between the two. Okay, then I shall listen to what you have to say. Mu Hanni said, This junior once wished to become the direct disciple of the sect master, but was too mediocre and lost to brother Yun Qi in the competition. As Yun Qi is the sect master's direct disciple, this junior is completely convinced that this junior is not able to compare to Yun Qi. Sect Master Huo's disciple is certainly extraordinarily talented, and that has caused this junior's hands to become itchy. There should be no harm in letting this junior exchange a couple blows with Brother Poyun to learn from each other, right? If this junior were to, by chance, luckily defeat your precious disciple, Mu Hanni casually smiled as he arrogantly said, Then, I'm afraid your disciple just isn't qualified enough to exchange blows with my sect master's beloved direct disciple. Once Mu Hanyi finished speaking, Huo Poyun's brows greatly furrowed, as hints of anger arose on his face. As for all of the Divine Ice Phoenix sect elders with strange lights in their eyes, those seniors whose hearts had been tightly clenched, their expressions seemed to become more comfortable as they silently nodded in relief. It seemed like they had all suddenly relaxed a lot. Mu Hanyi was indeed Mu Hanyi. His confident emergence and clever words had caused this situation, which seemed so lost for the Divine Ice Phoenix sect to suddenly turn. Especially his, if this junior were to, by chance, luckily defeat your precious disciple. I'm afraid your disciple just isn't qualified enough to exchange blows with my sect master's beloved direct disciple. This made it so Huo really couldn't refuse even if he wanted to. Moreover, if Mu Hanyi were to defeat Huo Poyun, then the dangerous matter of face between the two sect masters would also be resolved. "Hanyi, you've done well," Mu Huanji generously praised, greatly relieved. Huo Ruli had not yet spoken when Huo Poyun stepped forward and sternly said, "All right, then I, Huo Poyun, will ask Brother Hanyi to enlighten him first." "I couldn't be more willing." Mu Hanyi's expression turned serious as he turned to Yun Qi and then gently said, "Senior brother Yun Qi, as of right now, he still doesn't deserve to exchange blows with you. Let me fight with him for a while first. Then please be careful." Yun Qi silently withdrew. Yun Qi had just withdrawn several steps when profound lights simultaneously exploded from Mu Hanyi and Huo Poyun's figures, as two equally shocking profound energies of opposing attributes began emanating from their bodies. The energies released were so tyrannical and overbearing that no one could believe that they came from two youths who were still not yet 30 years old. In terms of their cultivations, the two were both at the 5th stage of the divine tribulation realm. The only difference between them was Mu Hanyi being 3 years older than Huo Poyun. But in terms of bloodlines, Mu Hanyi's was naturally inferior to Huo Poyun's. However, Mu Hanyi's cold gaze still contained hints of confidence, because this was the Snow Song realm and moreover in the Sacred Hall, the place closest to the heavenly Netherfrost Lake. This could be said to be the coldest place in the Snow Song realm outside of the heavenly Netherfrost Lake itself. The frost aura here was greatly beneficial for Mu Hanyi's Ice Phoenix God investiture cannon, while also being greatly detrimental for Huo Poyun's Golden Crow's record of the Burning World. Thus, he believed he had enough control. Xuanian sighed, silently looking forward. His line of sight, however, didn't fall upon Mu Hanyi. Rather, it was fixed upon the opposing Huo Poyun. Between the trio of Yan Zhuo, Yan Mingxuan, and Huo Poyun's profound strength was the weakest and thus, relatively the most unremarkable. Most people concentrated their shocked gazes upon Yan Zhuo, the one with the greatest profound strength. Yet Yun Qi, from the very start, only paid attention to Huo Poyun. Yun Qi was extremely sensitive to the strength of flames. Although Huo Poyun's profound strength was the weakest, Yun Qi clearly felt that the flame aura on his body was purer than that of Yan Zhuo or Yan Mingxuan. Furthermore, it wasn't just by a little bit. "Why don't you attack first?" Huo Poyun asked. Different from the ordinary manner whilst facing Yun Qi, the voice of the Huo Poyun facing Mu Hanyi was icy and a little overbearing, and his expression clearly reflected a scarlet light that caused one's heart to palpitate. Evidently, he had been somewhat incensed by Mu Hanyi's previous words. This surely was a man with extreme dignity. "No, you are a guest from afar. You should certainly be the one to attack first." It had previously been stated that no fighting could occur in front of the Sacred Hall. Although Mu Hanyi was planted like a flagpole, he still had to abide by the previously stated rule. 2 people each exchanging blows 3 times. The one being attacked could only block and couldn't counterattack or dodge. Under this kind of rule, the person to attack first naturally held a considerable advantage. But these two were both exceedingly talented and just as proud, so neither wanted to take the advantage. "Hanyi, strike him directly. There's no point in mincing words with him," Mu Xuanian uttered coldly. Mu Hanyi's body shivered slightly, then respectfully answered, "Yes." Ding, with a tinkle like the fracturing of an ice crystal, Mu Hanyi thrust forward. Frost energy radiated all around, and the layer of ice beneath Huo Poyun's feet exploded. 3 ice crystal trees rose steeply from the ground, forming a triangle and trapping Huo Poyun in the center. Following the rapid growth of the ice crystal trees, a terrifying frost energy and life-threatening frigid ice mercilessly fell down. "Tree of Frozen End," Yun Qi muttered. Looking at Mu Hanyi's appearance, it was just a casual action. Yet the frozen end tree he had released, and the strength of the frost energy surpassed his tens of times over. After all, Mu Hanyi had the rare blood of the Ice Phoenix, and his profound strength at the divine tribulation realm was something the current Yun Qi simply couldn't hope to reach. Yet Huo Poyun didn't move at all. He didn't even raise a hand, choosing only to furrow his brow. Boom! A streak of flame violently exploded from his body, then scattered and extinguished in an instant. At the same time, the 3 frozen end trees also directly exploded, filling the sky with ice crystals that completely burned into nothingness before they could even land on the ground. Greetings won't be necessary. Huo Poyun's brow was heavy. Why don't you honestly and properly use your full strength and let me experience your presumptuous self? Ha ha ha, I don't deserve to be called presumptuous. Mu Hanyi let out a long laugh. Just as his laughter fell, his expression also suddenly turned cold. Since this is so, then I won't be polite, my second strike. The rich frost energy turned into a substance with blue light, expanding rapidly from Mu Hanyi's body. Air completely stopped circulating, and the sky filled with floating snow, also completely slowed to an immobile state. An astonishing frost energy, with a similarly shocking speed, extended outwards, and in merely the blink of an eye, covered the entire Sacred Hall region. Hanyi is finally starting to get serious, an Ice Phoenix Palace Master said in a low voice. Let's see how that Huo Poyun will receive it, another Ice Phoenix Palace Master said confidently. In this Sacred Hall region, Mu Hanyi's frost profound energy had a considerable increase in power. At this time, Mu Hanyi's hands suddenly intertwined, and the earth-shattering frost energy concentrated frantically following his movements, pouncing straight at Huo Poyun. This attack was colorless and formless. This was an ultimate frost energy, capable of freezing heaven and earth. Huo Poyun's expression became a bit more cautious. Reacting to the compression and approach of the frost energy, he lowered his figure, then began to spin into the air. Following the rotation of his body, the raging flames of the Golden Crow began to ignite violently amidst the frost energy, turning into streaks of dragon-shaped flames that wantonly fluttered around him. Frost energy pounced forward, seemingly freezing emptiness. An incomparably strong mist arose from the dragon-shaped flames, yet they still didn't have the slightest indication of being extinguished. Even the speed at which they danced and the astonishing Golden Crow aura didn't lessen at all. Ha! After several breaths' time of stalemate, the frost energy was forced away layer by layer, actually unable to persist. Huo Poyun let out a low roar at this time, and the fluttering flames suddenly exploded. The flames soared and a scarlet thread appeared in the white sky for an instant. The frost energy that came from Mu Hanyi was instantly swept away by a thick fog, like a storm. The air, along with the peak frost energy, rapidly became scorching hot. You still have one last move. Huo Poyun landed slowly. His landing point and his previous position didn't have the slightest difference. Worthy of being the sect master Huo's high disciple, you truly are extraordinary, Mu Hanyi praised sincerely. Hanyi, there's no need to hold back. Let him experience what the Ice Phoenix God Investiture Canon really is, Mu Yunjai said in a low voice. Mu Hanyi nodded slowly. The expression on his face vanished as he clenched his hands unhurriedly. If one said he had held back 30% just now, he certainly would let out his very best in this final strike. In contrast, Huo Poyun actually remained there, standing straight. Only a layer of weak flames dotted with holes surrounded his entire body, and he didn't appear to be in any position to defend with Golden Crow profound energy at all. Mu Hanyi furrowed his brow as his hand gestures slowed. Looking at his actions, Huo Poyun said in an incomparably dull tone, I've already finished my preparations, don't hesitate to make your move. His attitude, as well as his words, caused Mu Hanyi's brow to wrinkle greatly. Half of Divine Ice Phoenix sect was shocked, while the other half had expressions filled with anger. What does this brat mean? Is he looking down on senior brother Hanyi? He thinks he's deserving. I think he doesn't want to live anymore. Senior brother Hanyi, your previous 2 attacks were too courteous. Don't hold back anymore, strike him down directly. Compared to Divine Ice Phoenix sect's anger and taunts, before Huo Poyun's clear arrogance and contemptuous actions, not only did Huo Ruli not chide Huo Poyun, he actually revealed a slight smile. Mu Hanyi inhaled lightly and didn't say anything more. His gaze, however, concealed a sense of anger. Soundlessly, the frigid light surrounding his body rapidly became much deeper. This slight change in atmosphere caused all the sounds of discontent from the Ice Phoenix disciples to disappear like they'd been frozen. Once the frost energy had become heavy to a critical point, Mu Hanni's pupils suddenly turned ice blue. His hair, billowing against the frigid wind, rapidly turned into a sparkling white-blue color amidst the blue light. This action caused all the disciples, and even the palace master and elders, to hold their breaths. This was a state in which frost profound energy had been channeled to the extreme limit. Mu Hanni wouldn't hold back even the slightest in this strike. An enormous halo of blue light, centered on Huo Poyun's body, silently appeared in the air. This halo was initially an azure blue color, then it slowly turned lighter and lighter. Finally, if it were any lighter, it would seemingly be colorless and formless. But at the center of the blue halo, frost energy actually accumulated violently at a speed frightening beyond compare. This is Ice Phoenix God Investiture Canon, the 7th stage's frozen end heaven sealing formation, within the Divine Hall. It seems only Senior Brother Hanni and Senior Sister Faksu have been able to cultivate it. SS. Senior Brother Hanni is angry that Huo Poyun won't die, right? Serves him right if he dies. I've only seen Palace Master use it once. I didn't think that Senior Brother Hanni, who doesn't have the bloodline inheritance, could actually cultivate the 7th stage relying on only elder blood essence. It's too terrifying. Not one of the Ice Phoenix disciples didn't have their eyes open wide and breaths held, scared to miss the scene that instant amidst their extreme excitement and raised spirits. Yet Huo Poyun still remained standing there perfectly straight, his body not moving even an inch. Only his line of sight showed a little deviation. Frozen end, heaving sealing formation. As Mu Hanni recited in a low voice, the shadow of an illusory ice phoenix flashed on his body. In that instant, heaven and earth fell silent as the blue halo in the air suddenly gathered together, and the region inside of the halo became a frigid hell. Countless layers and cones of ice appeared out of nowhere in a flash, and a frightening storm arose as if doomsday had arrived, mercilessly sweeping towards the Huo Poyun standing in the center of the frigid hell. Ah! The Ice Phoenix disciples let out an unbroken series of fearful sounds. Huo Poyun raised his head slightly, his gaze concentrated on the approaching frigid disaster. Then, seemingly without any notice, he let out a heaven-shaking roar. Ha! Boom! Just then his entire body had been immobile and only contained a feeble flame aura, but with only a roar, flames that scurried several hundreds of feet away exploded from his body. These flames were only the beginning. Boom! 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 Boom, 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 boom. The explosion of the golden crow flames sounded incomparable intensely. Under Mu Hanni's frozen end heaving sealing formation, the extremely heavy frost energy would cause fire-type profound practitioners with slightly weaker profound energy to be incapable of igniting a flame for even an instant. But these golden crow flames, situated at the center of the frozen end heaven sealing formation, actually ignited fiercely in a flash and ruptured outwards violently, filling the sky with golden crow divine flames amidst the icy storm. The air, atmosphere, and infinitesimal particles, even snow and frost energy became a medium for the combustion and ignition of golden crow flames. At the center of the frigid hell and icy storm, layer after layer of pure gold flames became lit. Moreover, these spread outwards at a considerable speed. Chat? Mu Yunjai let out a startled cry. Even as a Divine Hall elder, her eyes clearly bulged at this moment. This is... Mu Bingyun's expression also revealed a violent change. She looked at Mu Xuanian and captured an instance of astonishment from her eyes. Yellow Springs ashes, Yun Qi muttered in a low voice. His gaze passed through layers of frost energy and flames, firmly locking onto Huo Poyun. The speed in which Huo Poyun released Yellow Springs ashes was actually not much slower than him. Not only was his release speed extremely fast, under the suppression of Mu Hanni, the first instant of the Yellow Springs ashes being released already allowed it to resist the frozen end heaven sealing formation in its complete state, and subsequently forcefully counter-suppress the core strength of the frozen end heaven sealing formation bit by bit. Furthermore, it was an incomparably overbearing and fierce counter-suppression. In the short span of 5 breaths, the core region of the frozen end heaven sealing formation was filled completely with golden crow flames, and frost energy was simply incapable of entering by even a little bit. After 10 breaths' time, the pure gold flames actually eroded away almost half of the frost domain. This person named Huo Poyun. Ha! With another blood-curdling roar, a golden crow flame silhouette appeared on Huo Poyun's body. This golden crow flame silhouette brought about pure gold flames that covered the body and shot up to the sky amidst Huo Poyun's explosive roar. A golden crow's long cry tore through the horizon, entering directly into one's heart and soul. Scree, boom. With the sound of an oppressive explosion, the frozen end heaven ceiling formation completely collapsed from the ray of flames shooting towards the sky. The frost energy, charged with the limit of Mu Hanyi's strength, was rapidly swallowed by the flames until nothing was left, and even the ice layers and ice cones filled with ice phoenix energy were also overturned by the golden crow flames, melting away in an instant. The domain had been broken, and Mu Hanyi looked as if he had been hit by a heavy attack. The enormous recoil caused his entire body to stand stiff. A current of blood bubbled up his throat, filling his mouth, yet was immediately forcefully swallowed back down. Only a layer of morbid paleness appeared on his face. The flames dispersed, and the frost energy had been eliminated long ago. Huo Poyun still stood there fixedly. The location in which he stood didn't have even a half-step of deviation. Compared to Mu Hanyi's deathly pale complexion, his could be said to not have any change. "It looks like this should be the limit of your strength," Huo Poyun said dully. The meaning behind these words was clearly it was only this much. "Now it's my turn to attack." Huo Poyun slowly extended a hand. Mu Hanyi's complexion was tranquil as ever, yet was unable to speak for a long while. Everyone in Divine Ice Phoenix Sect had been startled frozen. Mu Hanyi had constructed the frozen end heaven ceiling formation using Ice Phoenix energy that was condensed over 10 breaths' time, yet Huo Poyun, who was situated right in the center of the domain, completely suppressed and locked down, had defeated Mu Hanyi's frozen end heaven ceiling formation in not even 20 breaths' time. Both of their profound energies were at the 5th level of the divine tribulation realm. But as for who was stronger and who was weaker, even a blind man could tell very clearly. Mu Hanyi's attainments in frost energy was considered either first or second in this generation of disciples in the Snow Song realm. Only Mu Feixu was comparable. This only meant that, not mentioning equal rank, even one whose profound strength was 1 or 2 levels higher than his wouldn't necessarily be a capable opponent. Yet in the domain battle just then, facing an opponent with the same profound strength, he was disadvantaged. And it was a considerable disadvantage. In contrast to Divine Ice Phoenix Sect's shock, Yan Wangkeng had an undisturbed expression. It was evident he had long anticipated this situation. Countless frosty gazes fell upon Huo Poyun. An extremely fast release of Golden Crow Divine Flame with a strength so great it shouldn't belong to one at the 5th level of the Divine Tribulation realm. Huo Poyun was someone that had been newly accepted by Huo Ruli, specially brought over to show off. To have mastered the Golden Crow Flame to this extent was something even the Huo Ruli of then definitely wouldn't have been able to accomplish. Such an existence actually appeared in this generation of the Flame God Realm's Golden Crow sect. Chi's brow slowly tightened, his gaze focused unwaveringly at Huo Poyun. This feeling, bloodline suppression, there were no less than 9 drops of the Golden Crow's divine blood in Yun Chi's body. Moreover, these were personally bestowed upon him by the Golden Crow soul. In addition to this, he also had some of the Golden Crow's divine soul. Yet when Huo Poyun released the Yellow Springs ashes just then, he had clearly felt some sort of bloodline suppression, and quite distinctly so. The only explanation for this situation was that Huo Poyun's Golden Crow bloodline couldn't possibly have been inherited. It had to be origin blood. Furthermore, it was origin blood even richer than his. It was even extremely likely to have the Golden Crow's divine soul. Both his Phoenix and Golden Crow bloodlines came from origin blood and not from inheritance. Before today, only Feng Zuer had been able to suppress him with bloodline, and Feng Zuer's Phoenix bloodline came from the complete bestowal of the Phoenix soul. Vastly unlike the Blue Pole Star, the God Realm had a history that spanned hundreds of thousands of years, and nearly all the inheritances left by the gods had been unearthed to exhaustion. The soul fragments left before the extinction of the primordial gods should have been discovered tens of thousands of years ago, and it was impossible for any to remain until now, like those in the Blue Pole Star had done. But Huo Poyun, could it be? It took Mu Hanyi a dozen breaths before his complexion finally became a little better. After letting out a weak laugh, his right foot shifted backwards. "Brother Poyun, make your move." Golden Crow flames, having the greatest combustive power of the 3 great divine flames, possessed might that naturally far exceeded that of the Ice Phoenix. But if one were to compare defensive capability, fire was naturally vastly inferior to ice. Huo Poyun didn't speak. A ray of flame flashed within his eyes as he lightly flicked his finger, and a fist-sized ball of flame flew out like lightning while simultaneously increasing in size. When it had arrived in front of Mu Hanny, the flame had already become taller than the height of several people combined. Mu Hanny's brow furrowed as he swung his fist out. Blue light flashed and the ball of fire was swept far away, scattering and disappearing in the air. "I've returned your greeting just now." That one cold statement from Huo Poyun completely revealed the arrogant nature ingrained in his bones. "You're too polite," Mu Hanny replied somewhat stiffly. At this time, Huo Poyun slowly raised his right hand, igniting a raging flame on his arm. This golden crow flame expanded extremely quickly, climbing to over 100 feet tall in the blink of an eye. After, the flame suddenly began to contract rapidly, as the color of the flame simultaneously turned from a scarlet gold color to an increasingly deep pure gold color. Following the change in the flame's color, its combustive aura began to rise 10 times over. In the end, the raging golden crow flames shooting towards the sky impressively turned into a golden ray in Huo Poyun's hand. It was like it had become a 100-foot-tall golden fire sword. "Golden annihilation," Xianxia exclaimed softly. "It looks like Mu Hanny will fall directly." Since golden crow flames had the greatest destructive power, it was useful not only for large-scale incineration but also for extreme power compression, allowing it to carry out concentrated burn kills. At the time when Xianxia was in the Emperor Profound Realm, he was able to seriously injure the sovereign Profound Realm Duke Huai, simply using golden annihilation. Later, when Xuanyuan Wenchen broke into the illusory demon realm, and even the combined efforts of Feng Zuer and Little Demon Empress couldn't completely defeat him, it was also golden annihilation that had caused heavy injuries. So Xianxia was incomparably clear that, on a level playing field, golden annihilation was something that simply couldn't be defended against, head-on. Due to golden annihilation's incineration range being very small and also requiring a set amount of time to compress flame power, it was relatively easy to avoid. But with the current rules, Mu Hanny could only defend head-on and couldn't choose to evade. Previously, Mu Hanny's 3 attacks had been completely blocked by Huo Poyun, which also proved that his comprehension was far inferior to Huo Poyun. If he wanted to block this golden crow flame head-on, Xianxia could directly assert that it was fundamentally impossible. At this time, Huo Poyun gave a low cry as the golden fire sword chopped down from midair, drawing an enormous golden arc that hacked towards the top of Mu Hanny's head. "Oh no!" Mu Yizhai, Mu Hanny's master, cried. Mu Hanny had never exchanged blows with anyone from the Fire God realm or seen this fire-turned sword move before. But once the frightening aura had almost arrived, all the hairs on his body suddenly stood up straight. This frightening feeling caused his entire body to go taut. Too afraid to hold anything back, Mu Hanny violently released all the profound energy in his body, erecting 10 thick and heavy layers of ice in front of his body in an instant. In another instant, another 10 layers of ice appeared. It was at this time that the golden fire sword hacked open the first layer of ice. ZZNN, ice and fire collided. The first layer of ice split in a flash. The resulting sound wasn't one of shattering, but an oppressive noise of direct incineration. Under the destruction of the layer of ice, the might and aura of the golden fire sword practically didn't weaken in the slightest. The second layer, the third layer, the fourth layer, the fifth layer, the 9th layer, the 10th layer. This was a frost defense erected with the full power of Mu Hanny, the Ice Phoenix Divine Sect's peak disciple of this generation. Under Huo Poyun's fire sword, his defense had been broken apart like tissue. Only after burning apart 10 layers of ice in a flash did the might of the golden fire sword weaken to about 20%. Mu Hanny's profound strength had already been channeled to its very peak. His pupils enlarged, and he could only look on helplessly as the ice shield created from the extreme limit of his strength was destroyed as easy as one broke dried branches. That rich, almost to the point of dazzling, golden fiery light seemingly completely disregarded the existence of the layers of ice in front of him, approaching abruptly within his pupils. Bang! The last ice shield in front of Mu Hanny broke, and the golden fire sword directly fell down, ripping apart the blue light surrounding his body with no difficulty, suddenly stopping right before his left shoulder. Whoosh! The snow robe on Mu Hanny's left shoulder was instantly incinerated. If the stagnant fire sword fell just a little more, his left shoulder would directly be severed from his body. Mu Hanny didn't seize the opportunity to retreat. Rather, he stood there blankly and didn't recover his bearings for a long time. If he had faced someone whose profound strength far exceeded his, he would be able to calmly accept such a defeat. But opposing him was someone that had a comparable profound strength and was even younger than him. To Mu Hanny, someone with extreme talent and nearly no true equal at the same level, this was unprecedented and an enormous blow he was unable to accept. "You lost," Huo Poyun said lightly. Following the casual retraction of his hand, the golden fire sword immediately flew upwards, sprinkling the sky with embers. At this time, Mu Hanny finally sat on the floor, his complexion gloomy. "Ah, how could this be, senior brother Hanny, actually? This result was something none of the Ice Phoenix disciples, much less Mu Hanny, could dare to believe or begin to accept. Nearly all the gazes of the Ice Phoenix elders and palace masters concentrated onto Huo Poyun. Within every person's eyes, a sense of extreme shock flashed. "Hanny, step down," Mu Xuanian said coldly. Mu Hanny rose, inhaled deeply, then cupped his hands at Huo Poyun and said, "I, Mu Hanny, concede defeat. My previous words were a slip of the tongue to maintain morale. I meant no malice, please forgive me." Huo Poyun blinked, then nodded and deeply returned the courtesy. Mu Hanny turned, glanced at Yun Qi deeply and faintly shook his head at him, revealing an apologetic yet cautioning expression. Then he returned to Mu Yizhai's side with heavy footsteps. Clap, clap, clap. Huo Ruli clapped heavily, then let out his usual deafening laugh. "Ha ha ha ha, I heard long ago that your respected sect produced a disciple this generation named Mu Hanny, whose talent and strength were both astonishing beyond compare. After witnessing this today, his reputation truly is well-deserved. This fight was truly extremely brilliant and thrilling. Though this inferior disciple of mine won, his victory was hard-fought and something to be ashamed of. I presume the Snow Song Realm King's newly accepted high disciple certainly must be even stronger. Poyun, you must fight with all your strength. The least you can do is make sure your loss isn't too unsightly, ha ha ha." Every one of Huo Ruli's words carried deep satisfaction and reckless ridicule. Those in the Ice Phoenix divine sect all revealed expressions of anger, yet all were unable to respond. "Sect Master," Mu Huanji could only direct his gaze towards Mu Xuanian. "Chair, you go up," Mu Xuanian directly coldly, then added softly, "At any rate, they're guests from afar. Let's comply with the Sect Master Hu's desire and make sure his loss isn't too unsightly." This statement immediately caused Huo Ruli to almost choke on laughter as the entire Ice Sect stared on speechlessly. "Yes," Yun Qi answered. He walked up to Huo Poyun with a slow gait, stopping when the distance between them was about 100 feet. "Just then, our side attacked first. This time, you should make a move first." Yun Qi's tone carried a sense of helplessness. Up to now, he still wasn't clear what Mu Xuanian's true intentions were. Just as Huo Poyun was about to decline, Huo Ruli already roared with laughter. "Since this is the Snow Song Realm King's high disciple, then there's no need to modestly decline. Poyun, just properly experience the strength of this Snow Song Realm King's high disciple. You must not lose your master's face, ha ha ha." "Yes." Though it was really hard to accept, voluntarily attacking someone at the first level of the divine origin realm, it was difficult to disobey his master's order. At this time, a sound transmission from Yan Wangkang sounded by his ear. "Poyun, make sure to control your profound energy well. If you slip up and cause him a serious injury by any chance, with Mu Xuanian's temperament, you're bound to immediately be in trouble. In this situation, it's extremely likely this is the result she wants to see the most. But you must also make sure not to underestimate him. In order to become the Snow Song Realm King's direct disciple, he must be something extraordinary." Huo Poyun nodded slightly, his gaze directly at Yun Qi. "I'll be careful." Huo Poyun's footsteps stopped. He grasped out with a hand, and a lump of scarlet golden flames suddenly condensed in front of Yun Qi, blossoming into a luminous fiery light. Following the light retraction of his 5 fingers, the lump of golden flames exploded in midair, engulfing the region near Yun Qi. "Be careful," Mu Huanji yelled worriedly. This was Burning Sun Rupture, the 3rd realm of the Golden Crow's record of the burning world. It was also the most fundamental Golden Crow incineration technique. Looking only at the strength aura, Huo Poyun simply used only 10% of his strength, but he still believed Yun Qi absolutely wouldn't be able to block it. The hearts of everyone from the Divine Ice Phoenix sect immediately clenched tight. Yun Qi's steps, however, didn't move in the slightest. Only his hand extended unhurriedly, welcoming the pouncing Golden Crow flames, Upon his palm, bright blue light floated. Whoosh, heat waves surged forward. When the golden crow flames carrying formidable combustive power neared Xianxi's body, they were suddenly split into two portions like a current being sliced, scuttling to the left and right of Xianxi and towards the region behind him. Boom, the flames exploded, and the layer of ice behind Xianxi soared towards the sky. He put his arm down, and the blue light surrounded his body simultaneously vanished. Besides his hair being whipped up by the heat wave, his entire body didn't have the slightest injury, so much so that the golden crow flame simply hadn't even touched a single hair on his body. That was the first move. Xianxi's tone was flat, yet the Huo Poyun opposing him had been startled frozen. Even Huo Ruli, by his side waiting to watch the show, had his smile plastered rigid to his face. Huo Poyun was extremely afraid he would cause heavy burn injuries to Xianxi, so his first strike only carried very weak force, weak to the point that Xianxi could directly deflect it. As for the blue light and frost profound energy, it was nothing more than a pretense used to create the facade that he had used frost profound energy to dispel the flames. What happened? The entirety of Divine Ice Phoenix sect was shocked into a daze. Even Mu Huanji, who had been preparing to move and rescue Xianxi, was astonished as he just stood where he was, his eyes blankly staring on. Everyone could tell that Huo Poyun had only used a small portion of his strength. Yet even then, it was clearly not something which someone at the divine origin realm could withstand. Yet somehow, Xianxi had directly caused the golden crow flames to disperse. This was unquestionably even harder to accomplish than resisting the flames straight on without injury. Moreover, even though Huo Poyun had suppressed his strength from Xianxi's gestures, it wasn't something he had done by accident. This brat, what the hell? Huo Ruli was unable to laugh anymore. Xianxi, with profound strength at the first stage of the divine origin realm, was actually able to use frost profound energy to casually disperse Huo Poyun's golden crow flames. Could Xianxi's attainments in ice have actually reached such heights? It was Huo Poyun's golden crow flames which Xianxi had dispersed. As the person who had released the golden crow flames, and with his understanding of them, Huo Poyun knew clearer than anyone else what had happened. No wonder Mu Hanni lost. For someone who made it thousands of meters into the lake, his attainments with ice have actually reached such heights, Mu Huanji quietly said. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and make your next move, Mu Xuanian suddenly said, her voice sounding extremely impatient. The dazed Huo Poyun's figure quivered as he quickly regained his senses. The way he looked at Xianxi had suddenly dramatically changed. Poyun, seeing how the Snow Song Realm King herself has said such words, there is no longer a need for you be courteous, Huo Ruli said. He then suppressed his voice as he continued. Use golden annihilation. Huo Poyun didn't respond as he raised his right arm up, sending golden crow flames surging into the sky and lighting it up before the flames quickly shrank back down and turned into a dazzling gold sword of fire. It's the sword of fire from earlier, the Ice Phoenix disciples screamed. It was exactly this flame sword which had caused Mu Hanni's defense of ice and frost to completely crumble moments earlier, putting Mu Hanni into such a helpless state. And now it had appeared again, against Xianxi. Huo Poyun had once again ignited this extremely terrifying flame sword. Moreover, the aura and fiery glow emanating from it were no weaker than earlier. He clearly wasn't planning to give Xianxi any more chances after his first blow had been so easily defended against. You better use all of your power. Huo Poyun slightly furrowed his brows. However, you can relax. Even if you can't receive this blow, it will not injure you. Huo Poyun's ability to manipulate golden crow flames had already reached an extreme stage. Earlier, even after he broke through all of Mu Hanni's defenses and tore through the profound energy defending Mu Hanni's body, he did indeed manage to not actually injure Mu Hanni. This time, he naturally wouldn't allow Xianxi to receive any injuries either, if Xianxi were unable to resist. Xianxi didn't respond as he looked at the golden yellow flame sword. However, he wasn't like Mu Hanni, who had quickly condensed an ice shield. Instead, he once again stuck out his right hand as a blue light once again condensed atop his palm and quickly became increasingly concentrated. This was the only movement he made. Huo Poyun's eyes slightly wavered as the fiery light atop his body flickered, and the golden yellow flame sword abruptly swung down under countless terrified gazes. A streak of fiery golden yellow light cut across the sky, seemingly tearing apart the entire world. In the face of the sword, Xianxi remained completely still, not making any movements. Even the profound energy covering his body remained tranquil. The only difference was the blue light on his right hand grew increasingly darker and more mysterious. After seeing Poyun's golden annihilation, this brat isn't even bothering to try and resist it anymore. Huo Ruli cackled loudly. Although everyone already knew that Huo Poyun wouldn't injure Xianxia, they couldn't help it, as their hearts all tightened while the golden yellow flame sword descended. Yet even as the flame sword rapidly closed in on Xianxia, he still didn't move. Huo Poyun's fiery eyes stared at Xianxia as his sword descended. He too believed that Xianxia had been scared into a daze and had become unable to respond. At this point, the golden yellow flame sword was a mere couple of meters from Xianxia's head. Huo Poyun's brows clenched as he prepared to suddenly stop the flame sword the moment it touched Xianxia. But right at this same exact moment, Xianxia suddenly reached out with his right hand and made to grab the golden yellow flame sword. Xianxia's suddenly action caused the jaws of the entire Divine Ice Phoenix sect and Flame God Realm people to drop. Even Mu Hanni's full-power defenses had been completely demolished by this terrifying flame sword, fully demonstrating the astonishing amount of power contained within it. Yet Xianxia dared to use his hand to go grab it. He would just be incinerated to nothingness in an instant. "Xianxia, stop!" Mu Huanji screamed so loudly he nearly tore his throat. "Ah!" Mu Xiaolan shrieked. "This brat's gone mad!" Huo Ruli shouted. Huo Poyun also suffered great shock, but it was already too late for him to try and disperse the golden yellow flame sword. His pupils dilated, but he could only look on and watch as Xianxia's glowing blue palm grabbed the golden yellow flame sword like a bolt of lightning. Szzz. A pale white fog covered the skies as the sound of frost profound energy being extinguished resounded throughout. But amidst the white fog, at the point where Xianxia touched the brightly glowing golden yellow flame sword, it suddenly crumbled. Bang W what? Faced with this scene, the astonished Huo Ruli suddenly stumbled backwards. As the flame sword fragmented, the energy of the golden crow flames instantly went out of control and wildly scattered. In the blink of an eye, the hundreds of meters long flame sword had been turned into several fragmented pieces of fiery light, which were quickly extinguished by the frigid air. Huo Poyun's sword-wielding arm continued moving as if his sword were still there, but the entire rest of his body seemed to have frozen over as he remained motionless for a long time. His face was covered in an expression of extreme shock from having seen something that he had never before seen in his life. What just happened? Even the dignified Phoenix sect master Yan Zhuhai had been shocked, speechless by the events. Yan Wangkeng could only slowly nod as the look of shock on his face matched the ones on Yan Zhuhai and Huo Ruli's faces. Even the entire Divine Ice Phoenix sect had become lost in a daze. After all, they had just seen Mu Hanni be easily defeated by this flame sword. Its power was clearly extremely terrifying. Yet Xianxia was able to cause this flame sword to disperse. As for Mu Hanni, who had just lost to golden annihilation and personally felt its terrifying power, he seemed to have become petrified on the spot. Even the pupils of his eyes had become completely frozen as he emotionlessly gazed at the area for a long time. Xianxia lowered his arm as he calmly looked at Huo Poyun and said, "You still have one last move." Although golden annihilation was terrifying in the end, it was nothing more than pure golden crow flame energy. As long as it was purely flames, no matter how terrifying they were, they could not possibly harm him. Ha. At this time, Mu Huanji, who had been stunned for a long time, suddenly began laughing. He is indeed worthy of being someone who descended thousands of meters into the lake. With his talent for ice, even with his divine origin realm profound strength, he was able to disperse the golden crow flames of a divine tribulation realm cultivator. This is something that is almost never seen. Immediately afterwards, however, Mu Huanji realized that he had lost control due to his excitement and said some rash words. Thus, he quickly shut up. What? Thousands of meters into the lake? As Mu Huanji revealed this fact, Yan Wangkeng, Yan Zhuhai, and Huo Ruli all simultaneously exhibited their shock. Naturally, all three of them knew about the heavenly Netherfrost lake and were able to make the connection. Moreover, for someone at the divine origin realm to descend thousands of meters into it, this required an incomparably terrifying innate talent for ice. The gazes of all three Flame God Realm sect masters connected as their expressions all changed. This kind of talent was indeed extremely rare. No wonder Mu Xuanian had abandoned such a rare talent like Mu Hanni for Xianxia, who was from a lower realm and whose cultivation was only at the start of the divine origin realm. The three also instantly realized why Divine Ice Phoenix sect had proposed such a competition. If it were an actual battle, there was absolutely no way for a practitioner at the first level of the divine origin realm to compete with one in the divine tribulation realm. However, if they were only competing with profound arts and using profound arts to release the pure energies of the elements, then as long as his attainments in ice were high enough, Xianxia would be able to release high-level ice profound energy even with his low cultivation, allowing him to defend against the flame profound energy of his higher cultivation opponent. Only the difference between the two was a full 2 realms, and Huo Poyun's own attainments with flame profound energy were already extremely high. For Xianxia to have been able to do this, it could only be possible if his attainments with ice had reached a level which defied the heavens. But for him to have been able to descend thousands of meters into the lake with just his divine origin realm cultivation, it was already heaven-defying. Xianxia had indeed defended against Huo Poyun's golden yellow flame sword earlier. This clearly proved that in terms of elemental laws, he was far superior to Huo Poyun. Xianxia is actually this strong. All of the Ice Phoenix disciples were stunned silly. He is only at the divine origin realm, yet he is stronger than senior brother Hanny. This, no wonder sect master actually chose him. The large majority of Ice Phoenix disciples had only more or less heard of what happened inside the heavenly Netherfrost Lake, and so, when Mu Xuanian decided to pick Xianxia and abandon Mu Hanny and Mu Feixu, nearly all of them had become shocked and unable to understand, while some even became angered. But now, after seeing Mu Hanny and Xianxia face against the same golden yellow flame sword wielded by Huo Poyun with different results, they had all completely changed their minds. "Congratulations, Snow Song Realm King, for accepting such a good disciple," Huo Ruli said, gritting his teeth. Now that it had reached this point, he finally inwardly knew that he had been played. However, as he repeatedly played the scene of Xianxia breaking golden annihilation in his mind, he was completely unable to calm down. "However, compared to my inferior disciple, he is still far worse." "Poyun," Huo Ruli said in an extremely agitated voice, "for the last move. You don't have to hold back any longer. Let the Snow Song Realm King see clearly for herself our Flame God Realm's once in 10,000 years talent." Huo Poyun was quite surprised as he turned around and said, "Master, could it be?" "Yes." Huo Ruli slowly nodded as his eyes became increasingly vicious, clearly explaining everything. As he thought about the bet from earlier, and then the destruction of his golden annihilation by Xianxia's single hand, Huo Poyun clenched both fists and then nodded his head in affirmation. Yan Wangkang seemingly wanted to say something, but as soon as he was about to take a step forward, he paused momentarily and then decided to remain where he was as he faintly sighed. Although this would reveal some secrets, Huo Ruli indeed could not lose. With the wager made over this contest, Huo Ruli absolutely could not afford to lose. "A once-in-10,000-year talent," Mu Xuanian sneered coldly. "Such bravado, okay. Then this king will carefully see where your courage comes from. I hope you will not be too frightened." Facing the Divine Master Realm, Snow Song Realm King, Huo Ruli said some extremely exaggerated words. "Poyun," Huo Poyun's expression had already become extremely solemn as the golden crow flames on his body reignited. However, this time the flames were especially sparse and sluggard. "Ha!" Huo Poyun grunted. Almost immediately afterwards, he violently screamed in an extremely painful manner. "Ha!" The golden crow's soul shadow emerged over his body, but it was different from earlier. This time, the golden crow's soul shadow did not contain the slightest feeling of illusion. Instead, it felt extremely real, as if the true golden crow divine spirit had suddenly descended. The flying snow stopped as the nearby profound ice, which had been frozen for tens of thousands of years, began to silently recede at a terrifying pace. A burning heat completely swallowed up the nearby frigid air and continuously radiated into the surroundings. As the heat became increasingly intense, the light also underwent an enormous change. The world in front of them had suddenly become covered in a layer of scarlet red. As time passed, the scarlet red became increasingly intense before slowly turning into a golden color. This is... The temperature had already heated up to an extremely shocking degree, yet it was still increasing at a crazy pace. It was at this moment that Mu Huanji subconsciously raised his head, after which he became dazed. The sky, which had originally been a pale snow white, had become completely red. and high above in the red sky was a dazzling golden sun, one which no one noticed the appearance of. Observing this golden-colored sun, Mu Huanji first felt shock and then some confusion, before finally thinking of something which caused both of his pupils to suddenly contract. However, no matter how much he wanted to, he couldn't speak the name. It just couldn't be. 9 suns, heavens, fury. As Mu Xuanian looked up, her snow-white lips moved as she coldly said 4 words. None of the Ice Phoenix disciples could comprehend these short 4 words, but all of the elders and palace masters acted as if they had been struck by lightning as an expression of extreme disbelief emerged on each of their faces as if they had seen a ghost. The looks of surprise and disbelief on their faces were several times greater than when they had personally seen Yun Chi block Huo Poyun's golden flame sword. 9 suns, heaven's fury. It was the divine power of the 10th stage of the Golden Crow's record of the burning world. It was the ultimate divine flame, which even Huo Ruli had failed to cultivate up to now. Poyun's entire body was completely covered in golden flames, only leaving behind a faint outline of his figure. But no one was paying attention to this, as they were all too busy focusedly staring at the golden sun hanging in the sky. Regardless of who it was, the first thing which came to mind when they first saw it was a sun which blazed amongst the blue skies. 9 suns, heaven's fury. These 4 words gave all of the Ice Phoenix elders an immense shock, yet were completely not understood by the young generation. However, as the juniors saw the faces of the elders and hall masters suddenly pale, they immediately realized how terrifying the 4 words had to be. Ah, uahhhh! Huo Poyun continued to scream, his voice becoming increasingly hoarse. Intermittently, the cry of the Golden Crow would weave itself in between as amidst the intense screams and cries. The golden-yellow radiance became an increasingly pure golden color. As for the blazing sun, it calmly remained where it was in the sky and seemed to not undergo the slightest change. Nonetheless, the terrifying aura continued to quickly increase with each breath as if it would never stop. Yun Chi's eyes were also fixed on the sun in the sky, unable to move away. As turmoil went through his mind, Mu Xuanian's voice suddenly transmitted beside his ear. This is the power of the 10th stage of the Golden Crow's record of the burning world. It is called 9 suns, heaven's fury. The 10th stage. Yun Chi's mind shook yet again. When cultivated to perfection, 9 suns, heaven's fury does indeed summon 9 suns to extinguish the world. Huo Poyun seems to only be at the most elementary level, the 1 sun stage. However, in the tens of thousands of years which make up the Flame God realm's history, only 4 cultivators have managed to actually successfully cultivate 9 suns, heaven's fury. Even the strongest cultivator in the Golden Crow sect's history, Huo Ruli, has yet to make it to this 10th stage of the Golden Crow's record of the burning world. Yun Chi. As for those 4 Golden Crow seniors who did manage to cultivate the stage level of the Golden Crow's record of the burning world, the youngest was already more than 6,000 years old. Huo Poyun, however, he has not yet reached 30. Yun Chi's mind trembled. The 9 suns, heaven's fury released by Huo Poyun had a terrifying aura which was countless times greater than Yellow Spring's ashes, yet it was only at the most basic 1 sun stage. Just what kind of terrifying realm would a complete 9 suns, heaven's fury reach? This kind of power, can you resist it? If you can't, just directly surrender and I shall bear the consequences. You must not force yourself. Mu Xuanian's voice was cold and devoid of emotions. Without hesitation, Yun Chi gently nodded his head. However, his gaze was still fixed on the sun hanging in the sky as a look of deep desire emerged within his pupils. From the Golden Crow's soul, he himself had received the first 7 stages of the Golden Crow's record of the burning world. Since then, because of just how powerful the Golden Crow flames were, they had replaced the Phoenix flames as his main ability. However, he had never expected that the higher levels of the Golden Crow's record of the burning world would actually be so powerful. He thought to himself, if I could manage to learn the higher levels of the Golden Crow's record of the burning world, with my power of the evil god, I should be able to quickly cultivate them without much difficulty. At that time, my own strength will be able to rise yet another level. Only, as it was the core divine art of the Golden Crow sect, they naturally would not be willing to hand it over to others. Mu Xuanian's gaze inadvertently swept across Yun Chi's eyes and then continued on to look elsewhere. Clustered drops of sweat fell from Huo Poyun's body like a torrential rain, only to be instantly vaporized. Huo Poyun's screams gradually calmed as the aura of the sun high in the sky finally began to stabilize and stop increasing at this time. Under the gazes of everyone present, the previously pale white sky had become a dazzling mass of golden yellow which stretched as far as they could see. The blazing sun had seemingly become the center of the world, as it released blindingly bright rays of light, just like a true sun. If they had not personally seen it with their own eyes, they would never have believed that all of this had been caused by a young, profound practitioner who was only in the divine tribulation realm. At this moment, Huo Poyun could already no longer be considered just an unparalleled talent. It was clear that he was a monster who had gone beyond the realm of logic and knowledge. He was a monster who had caused all of the upper-level members of Divine Ice Phoenix sect to hang their jaws in shock. In ancient legends, the source of the Golden Crow's flames were the flames of the sun. As such, the flames created by Nine Suns' Heaven's fury were true flames of the sun. Huo Ruli's head slowly turned as his pupils burned with a constant excitement. This was something he could only dream about, a realm which he would never be able to reach. This was why, when Mu Hanyi had suddenly jumped out to play spoiler, Huo Ruli hadn't bothered to complain. Forget about 5th level of the Divine Tribulation realm's Mu Hanyi. Even Yan Zhu, who had also come today with his 8th level cultivation, would not be Huo Poyun's opponent. In Huo Ruli's eyes, when Mu Hanyi had jumped out, he was merely delivering vegetables and would not be the slightest obstruction for Huo Poyun. Mu Xuanian, the disciple that you have just accepted, is indeed not normal and indeed caused me great shock. However, compared to Huo Poyun, he is still greatly lacking. Huo Ruli stood beside Huo Poyun as he extremely arrogantly and proudly sneered. Poyun is 100 times stronger than his foolish master. In the future, he will be the first person in the Flame God realm's history to reach the Divine Master realm, become a Divine Master. In the God realm, these 4 words contained an extremely sacred weight because Divine Masters were gods in the eyes of mortals. Yet when Huo Ruli said these words, none of the Divine Ice Phoenix sect members laughed. 24 years old, 10th realm of the Golden Crow's record of the Burning World. Using "become a Divine Master" to describe such a monster did not seem exaggerated or ridiculous at all. Following the appearance of a Divine Master in the Snow Song realm, its status amongst the Middle Star realms had suddenly skyrocketed. If the Flame God realm were to give birth to someone who could reach the Divine Master realm, then it might even directly ascend to an Upper Star realm. Sect Master. Mu Bingyun gazed at Yun Qi for a while, then finally couldn't take it anymore as she spoke towards Mu Xuanian. Mu Bingyun and Mu Xuanian both knew that Yun Qi's body contained the power of the evil god. However, as they were not Yun Qi, they naturally didn't know just what level of power the limit of the evil god's power could reach. Facing such a high level of divine Golden Crow flames, Mu Bingyun couldn't help but feel fear for Yun Qi. Mu Xuanian didn't respond. Huo Ruli, although you have achieved nothing yourself, you have indeed taken on a good disciple, Mu Xuanian coldly sneered. Ga, ga, Huo Poyun's figure was still covered in flames. He stuck a single hand towards the sky as he intensely gasped, his expression and breathing seemingly filled with pain. After all, although this was only the elementary level, one sun, it was still too much of a burden for his Divine Tribulation realm cultivation. Although he had forcefully used it, he had also completely exhausted his strength in the process. Heh, Huo Ruli snickered. Hurry and tell your disciple to surrender. You should know that this Nine-Sun Heaven's fury is not something which cannot be easily controlled. Once it begins its descent, your newly accepted disciple will definitely die. Surrender. Mu Xuanian's face showed disdain. Can something like this even be considered the Nine Suns' Heaven's fury? Huo Ruli's eyes furrowed as he solemnly said, As expected of the Snow Song Realm King, you sure are stubborn. You actually don't even care about the life and death of your direct disciple. My eyes have truly been opened today. Life and death. HMPH, why do you believe that this king's disciple cannot defend against a mere Nine Suns' Heaven's fury? Mu Xuanian coldly asked. Good, good. Huo Ruli's entire body suddenly trembled. If Mu Xuanian had insulted him, he could bear it, but she had actually dared to insult Nine Suns' Heaven's fury. Then if your disciple, this Yun Qi, dies to Nine Suns' Heaven's fury, what will you do? Die? Mu Xuanian raised her brows as she extremely indifferently said, Good, then this king will tell you what will happen. If Yun Qi were to be grievously injured or killed by this Nine Suns' Heaven's fury, this king promises not to pursue the matter. If this promise is broken, may the heavens smite me. Huo Ruli, does this make you happy? These heavy words caused everyone to fall into a daze. Huo Ruli was especially shocked by these words as he pointed at Mu Xuanian and said while gritting his teeth, Mu Xuanian, this is something you said yourself. Sect Master. This, silence. A divine hall elder had just begun speaking when Mu Xuanian coldly glared at him and reprimanded him. Two disciples are competing. Just where are you all getting all of this nonsense? If any of you dare to intervene while they are exchanging blows, don't blame this king for being harsh. All of the Ice Phoenix elders and hall masters went pale as they no longer dared to speak. Meanwhile, Yan Wangkeng and Yan Juhai just looked at each other. If Yun Qi were to die, she would absolutely not cause trouble. Not only that, but she had forbidden any others from intervening and saving him. But it was the Nine Sons' Heaven's fury. How could Yun Qi receive it? Poyun, Huo Ruli shouted. Huo Poyun raised his head with difficulty. Master, but now that the Snow Song Realm King has said such things, how can you retract it? Huo Ruli shouted. Attack! Huo Poyun had already reached his limits as he fiercely clenched his teeth and let out a loud roar, the flames on his body instantly exploding as the blazing sun in the fiery sky began to descend amidst cries of shock. WHHHHHHHH! The Ice Phoenix disciples had still been able to endure the earlier heat, but now, as the sun descended, the entire world seemed to have suddenly been thrown into a sea of flames as the Ice Phoenix disciples with the lowest cultivations all suddenly began to shriek in pain. The 72 elders and 36 hall masters all abruptly flew into the sky at this time, condensing an enormous barrier of crystalline ice to contain the heat. As a result, however, the heat within was naturally given nowhere to go. Yun Qi, who was in the center of all this, was now facing the brute force of the Nine Sons' Heaven's fury. The blazing sun left streaks of flames in its wake as it fell. Even on the other side of the barrier of ice, all of the Ice Phoenix disciples could still sense the unparalleled and terrifying aura of the attack. Yun Qi raised his head, his entire body illuminated a golden-yellow color. As the sun slowly descended, it became clear that it was not locked onto Yun Qi's energy. It seemed like Huo Poyun had left Yun Qi with the opportunity to escape. However, Yun Qi did not move as he just stood there, his gaze fixed on the blazing sun as it fell towards him. It seemed like he was analyzing it. Ah! Countless screams and shouts of shock overlapped with each other as everyone intently watched the blazing sun finally descend and envelop Yun Qi within. Boom! A dull, explosive sound accompanied the explosion of golden light as the sky tens of thousands of meters above was illuminated by the fiery glow. Everyone watched as the sun in front of them completely exploded. The space where Yun Qi was had been completely turned a golden color. There were only golden, world-incinerating flames burning and raging. Layers of ice separated everyone from the golden flames, preventing them from rampaging everywhere. Nonetheless, all of the Ice Phoenix elders and hall masters maintaining the crystalline ice barrier were horrified, because the power they felt clashing against the ice barrier had nearly reached the level of the divine spirit realm. A person at the 5th level of the divine tribulation realm, releasing power comparable to a divine spirit realm cultivator. Considering how terrible the most basic Nine Sons' Heaven's fury was, if Nine Sons had truly descended, then perhaps it truly would have been a world annihilating Heaven's fury. Only Yun Qi? Ah! Yan Wangkeng's gaze was bright as even he had been affected by the extraordinary sight of the blazing sun descending. He heavily sighed as he truly couldn't determine why Mu Xuanian had disregarded her disciple's life and not allowed him to forfeit while also taking the initiative to make such a heavy promise. His sigh had just ended when his expression suddenly changed. Through the layers of golden crow flames, he could still clearly feel Yun Qi's aura. Moreover, this aura was not only present, but it was extraordinarily clear. It did not seem to have weakened at all. This sudden discovery caused this #1 expert of the Flame God realm to directly go blank as his gaze firmly fixed on the area in front of him. He was completely unable to believe in what his own spiritual perception felt. So terrifying, the Flame God realm actually has such terrifying people, an Ice Phoenix disciple said, shivering. Mu Hani, whom they had worshipped so much in the past, truly could not compare. Yun Qi, SSS, facing such terrifying power, he must have immediately died sect master, she. Don't speak nonsense. The Ice Phoenix disciples were all astonished and terrified. Amongst the entire young generation of the divine Ice Phoenix sect, there was absolutely no one who could release this level of power. As for Yun Qi, They were certain that he had died. Perhaps in the very first moment it hit, he had immediately turned to ashes. However, none of them noticed the expressions of the elders and hall masters suddenly undergo an immense change at this moment, as their gazes were all still fixed on the spot where Xianxia had formerly been standing. With their shocked expressions and completely fixed gazes, they seemed to have all lost their souls. A long while after the sun's explosion, it finally began to calm back down as the flames slowly began to extinguish. As the dense clusters of golden flames gradually thinned out, a figure which had been enveloped within the flames gradually emerged. Xianxia was still standing at his original position. However, all of the ice beneath his feet had long since disappeared. Moreover, an enormous hole of unknown depth had been created below him. Xianxia's expression was solemn. Around his body, a blue-colored barrier of crystalline ice stood out amongst the remaining flames, reflecting and releasing golden and blue lights. Some golden flames were still burning, but they were all on the outside of the barrier, unable to touch Xianxia's body regardless of how hard they burned. Xianxia's entire body was completely devoid of injuries, and the snowy ice phoenix clothes he wore did not have the slightest traces of being burned. The moment Xianxia's figure emerged, outside of the sound of flames crackling and burning within the realm, everything was silent. P.S. Huo Poyun is not soy sauce, he's a boss. Crow flames slowly subsided. It became clear that the layer of ice in the area enclosed by the crystalline ice barrier condensed by the Ice Phoenix elders had dropped nearly 3,000 meters. Moreover, the ice which had been melted was no regular ice, but extraordinarily tough, profound ice, which had endured countless years of cold energy. However, it seemed as though not a single person had noticed the disappearance of the profound ice, as their gazes were all firmly locked on the figure of Xianxia. No one knew how long had passed, but the golden crow flames finally completely disappeared. Xianxia lowered his raised arms as the crystalline ice barrier surrounding him disappeared as well. With a flourish from his right hand, a blue light flickered as a section of ice abruptly condensed beneath him, above the newly created hole. His 2 feet silently landed on the ice. Huo Poyun's body bent forward, his entire body completely red from top to bottom. At just a glance, it seemed like he had just been roasted as beads of sweat poured off his entire body. His posture was extremely twisted as he appeared to be just barely standing. His entire body was weak and exhausted. His eyes were opened as wide as they could be as his pupils bulged out and fixedly stared at the completely unharmed Xianxia, revealing a confusion which couldn't be described. Boom, Huo Poyun's figure trembled as he heavily fell to the ground. However, his intensely quivering eyes remained fixed on Xianxia. In any case, he was completely unable to believe the scene he saw in front of him. As for Huo Ruli, who stood beside him, he made no attempt to help him up because he was completely petrified where he stood, as if he had been struck by a restricting curse. Huo Ruli's pupils were quivering even more intensely than Huo Poyun's had been. It seemed like they could explode at any second. To think, Yan Wangkang's mouth opened and closed countless times, but words wouldn't come out. Under such a great shock, even he couldn't figure out just what he wanted to say. It was not only them, all of the members of Divine Ice Phoenix sect were the same. None of them could utter a single sound. It seemed as though all of them had lost their souls. Even though Xianxia was clearly standing in front of them, completely unharmed, none of them dared to believe what their own eyes were seeing. Mu Huanji looked at Xianxia, then looked at Mu Xuanian, as his lips moved several times, but he was unable to speak. This result was something which no one could have predicted, and was one which no one dared to believe. Even Mu Xuanian had specially sent Xianxia a voice transmission prior to this to affirm his ability. Only Xianxia himself knew that this was the inevitable result. It was impossible for Huo Poyun's 9 sons' Heaven's Fury to harm him. In fact, it wouldn't have harmed him even if it were Huo Ruli. Xianxia spoke, his words neither fast nor slow. The 3 moves have passed. Now it's my turn to attack. Earlier, Xianxia had realized that although the pure golden crow flames couldn't harm him, he also couldn't harm the divine tribulation realm Huo Poyun with his current strength. However, after Huo Poyun had released his 9 sons' Heaven's Fury, he had completely exhausted his entire profound energy. It was likely that Huo Poyun didn't even have enough profound energy left to maintain a defensive layer around his body. If Xianxia were to attack Huo Poyun in his current state, it indeed wouldn't be too hard. Yun Qi's words caused Huo Poyun's contracting pupils to recover some of their focus. He was currently unable to move as he kneeled on the ground. It seemed like he was already unable to stand. He slowly lowered his head as he heavily took a deep breath and said with difficulty, "There is no need. I accept my defeat." Huo really didn't say anything as he raised his head and slowly closed his eyes before taking a deep breath. Only many moments later did he finally exhale with some difficulty. "Yun Qi is the victor," Mu Huanji finally declared. Mu Huanji's declaration contained a still somewhat out of control profound energy, causing the entire courtyard of dazed Ice Phoenix disciples to wake up as their eardrums shook. As they looked at the proudly standing Yun Qi and the wretchedly kneeling Huo Poyun, all of them seemed to have awoken from their dazes as they all simultaneously burst into roars of excitement and loud cheers. He won. Senior brother Yun Qi won. Sect Master won. So senior brother Yun Qi was actually this strong. No wonder Sect Master chose him to be her direct disciple. Nonsense. After all, it's the Sect Master. How could her vision be wrong? Senior brother Yun Qi is indeed much stronger than senior brother Hanny, and at least 10 times stronger at that. Is senior brother Yun Qi really at the divine origin realm? Phew, too terrifying. A divine origin realm actually defeated a divine tribulation realm. He didn't actually defeat Huo Poyun. If they were truly to fight, senior brother Yun Qi definitely would not have been his opponent. What senior brother Yun Qi won in was the understanding of elemental laws. The rumor that senior brother descended 10,000 feet into the heavenly Netherfrost Lake was true after all. If he's already so terrifying at the divine origin realm, his future will be unthinkable. Perhaps he will one day become as strong as the Sect Master. Then doesn't that mean he will one day become the next great realm king of the Snow Song realm? It is extremely possible. The sound of cheering covered the entire courtyard for a long time. When the Great Sect Assembly had started, and when Yun Qi had been received as disciple, everyone had felt all kinds of envy and jealousy. They had all been confused. Not a single person had felt any respect for Yun Qi. But now, all of them were fervently gazing at him with burning eyes. This was not only Yun Qi's victory, as due to Mu Xuanian and Huo Ruli's clash and bet, it had long since become a battle which affected the two realms' relationship as well. Huo Poyun's talent was terrifyingly high. When Mu Hanny had lost tragically to Huo Poyun, all of the Ice Phoenix disciples had felt despair amidst their terror. But in the blink of an eye, Huo Poyun had ended up falling at Yun Qi's hands. Moreover, Huo Poyun had surrendered whilst laying on the ground, unable to move. Amidst the ear-rattling shouts, Yun Qi began to slowly make his way towards Huo Poyun. Huo Poyun deeply lowered his head as his body continuously trembled. His entire body seemed to be surrounded by a thick layer of despair and depression. Without a doubt, he was a true heavenly talent. With his level of talent, he was the greatest talent in the entire history of the Flame God realm, not to mention the current generation of the Flame God realm. The three great sect masters had all personally acknowledged this fact. He was proud but not arrogant. Nonetheless, he was prouder than anyone else. As such a person, he had used his most powerful ability and still ended up losing to someone whose cultivation was far below his own. This kind of heavy blow, it was likely that it would become a shadow which hovered over Huo Poyun, one which would become a nightmare and obstruct his path of cultivation. Preventing further breakthroughs in the future, moreover, it could become a great barrier. Yun Qi did not wish for a true heavenly talent's radiance to diminish because of him. "Brother Poyun." Yun Qi stopped beside Huo Poyun and then stuck out his hand. "In terms of elemental laws, I may have one, but I am far from being your match in terms of profound strength. This competition was not fair for you, and I am ashamed of my victory. I am the same age as you, but your profound strength is so many times greater than mine. I cannot help but feel both envy and admiration towards you. In the future, you will be my target, so you must continue putting in effort. Don't let me surpass you on the path of profound cultivation. In turn, I will make sure you don't surpass me in terms of elemental laws." Huo Poyun raised his head and stared at Yun Qi for a moment, his gaze gradually becoming calm. Afterwards, he stuck out his hand and grabbed Yun Qi's hand as he slowly stood up. "I, Huo Poyun, have never before accepted defeat." The air of depression and despair disappeared like a morning fog as a smile appeared on Huo Poyun's face, and he confidently chuckled. Amidst the laughter, hints of gratitude could be felt. "Although I have lost today, there will be one day where I will win it back. Brother Yun Qi, you must be careful. From within Yun Qi's words, Huo Poyun could feel Yun Qi's sincerity and pureness. It was not just merely some compassionate words from the winner to the loser. "You too," Yun Qi faintly smiled. Their hands both clenched at the same time as they mutually admired each other. As Yan Wangkang and Yan Juhai observed this moment, Yan Juhai sighed deeply. This generation of the Snow Song Realm has given birth to an unbelievable figure. The strength of one's understanding of elemental laws determines how far one can reach. This youth called Yun Qi, I'm afraid that in the future he may even surpass Mu Xuanian. It is indeed terrifying, but it is also something that I am looking forward to. This was the first time Yan Wangkang had ever given such a high appraisal to someone, yet Yan Juhai was not surprised in the slightest. In fact, moments later, Yan Juhai slowly began to nod his head in agreement after some hesitation. Not proud, not arrogant, what a great demeanor! Yun Qi's actions caused Mu Huanjia's eyes to light up as he loudly praised Yun Qi. All of the elders and palace masters nodded in agreement as their expressions displayed their approval. Yun Qi had indeed brought a lot of face to their divine Ice Phoenix sect in front of the three great sect masters from the Flame God realm. In the past, the disciples, as well as the elders and palace masters, had all felt confusion towards Mu Xuanian for her decision to take Yun Qi over Mu Hani. Yet now, all of them praised Mu Xuanian for her wise choice and were ashamed of themselves for doubting her. "Yuner, come back," Mu Xuanian coldly said. Yun Qi obeyed Mu Xuanian's words and returned to her side. Mu Xuanian's frosty gaze turned and landed on Huo Ruli's figure. "Huo Ruli, now that the winner and loser have been decided, you haven't forgotten your own words, have you?" Huo Ruli fiercely raised his head as he faintly clenched his teeth and coarsely said, "A loss is a loss. Mu Xuanian, do not worry. The words that I, Huo Ruli, say are ones which will never be taken back even if the heavens collapse and the earth tears. If it is my life that you want, I will even die neatly here and now in front of you. I will even vow that Golden Crow sect will never pursue revenge. Are you happy, Master?" Huo Poyun cried in shock. "Your life," Mu Xuanian sneered, "as Bingyun suffered in torment from the flame poison all those years, this king has indeed dreamed about taking your life. But now that Bingyun has recovered, this king no longer has the selfish intention of causing two realms to be eradicated because of this king's own hatred. To this king, your life already has no more value. Even if you give your life to me, this king can't be bothered to take it." Huo Ruli became slightly dazed as he solemnly said, "Then what do you want from me? This king only wants one thing." As Mu Xuanian spoke, a blizzard once again began to fall over the courtyard. In the blink of an eye, the burning aura wrought by Nine Suns' Heaven's fury was completely devoured, returning the world to its normal state of frost. "This king wants your Golden Crow sect's complete Golden Crow's record of the burning world." Yun Qi's pupils quivered. "What?" Huo Ruli trembled. He had never expected Mu Xuanian to make such a request. "This, Snow Song Realm King, please let this Yan speak." Yan Wangkang solemnly spoke. "The Golden Crow's record of the burning world is the core profound art of Golden Crow sect and cannot be transferred. Moreover, one can only cultivate it if one has the bloodline or soul of the Golden Crow. It is completely impossible for anyone not part of Golden Crow sect to cultivate it. Furthermore, your sect's ice profound energy is the direct opposite of it. This Yan would like to know why Snow Song Realm King wants to see the Golden Crow's record of the burning world." "This king has no obligation to tell you my goal," Mu Xuanian rudely said. "Huo Ruli, are you going to give it to me or not?" It wasn't just Yan Wangkang and company. The entire Divine Ice Phoenix sect was thoroughly confused and curious as well. No one could understand why their sect master had, under the conditions of not going back on his word, and accept any requested for Huo Ruli to provide the Golden Crow's record of the burning world. As a primordial god art, it was natural for a profound cultivator to want to get a glimpse of it. However, in the end, it was only looking at it. Without the Golden Crow's bloodline or soul, it was impossible to cultivate it. Moreover, Divine Ice Phoenix sect cultivated ice attribute profound arts, making it even more impossible. Yan Juhai furrowed his brows and at the same time sent Yan Wangkang and Huo Ruli sound transmissions. For someone like Mu Xuanian, who has reached the Divine Master realm, it is extremely hard to advance even another small step. If she wants the Golden Crow's record of the burning world, it should be to just try and comprehend something from within it. Although she can't cultivate it, it is still a primordial god art after all and contains true god laws and true god truths. Yan Wangkang silently thought for a while, then slightly nodded. This was indeed the only explanation he could come up with. The lines on Huo Ruli's forehead faintly quivered. After a bout of rough breathing, he said in a deep voice, "I, Huo Ruli, am a man of my word." As these words were said, a cluster of flames abruptly appeared amidst his hand. With a simple flip of his palm, they were sent flying to Xuanian. Xuanian caught the cluster and immediately extinguished the flames, suddenly revealing a jade scripture which flickered with a crimson gold radiance. She didn't open it and look within, but just simply put it away as she indifferently said, "Sect Master Huo is indeed trustworthy. This king will now look at you in a higher light." HMPH? Huo Ruli heavily snorted. It seemed like every pore on his body was about to erupt with flames. With how well Sect Master Huo has adhered to his word, this king is not completely unwilling to think over the matter of the horned dragon. Joy emerged on Yan Wangkang's face. However, Xuanian's words suddenly took a sharp turn. Before that, however, you all must first answer a question from this king. Yan Wangkang hurriedly responded, "Please ask, Snow Song Realm King. As long as it doesn't involve any of the secrets of our sects, the three of us are willing to answer anything." At this time, Xuanian's gaze landed on Huo Poyun once again. "Because of the urgent matter of the horned dragon, the three of you all personally came to my Snow Song realm. However, outside of the two reasons you have given me so far, there is still one more reason, and it should have to do with Huo Poyun." Xuanian's last words caused the three sect masters to simultaneously become stunned in place, as Yan Wangkang sighed and responded, "The Snow Song Realm King's eyes are indeed sharp. Indeed, our longing to kill the horned dragon this time has a great deal to do with Poyun. We hope that by obtaining the fire spirit treasure on its body, we can help Poyun." "Sect Master Yan?" Yan Juhai sternly interrupted. Yan Wangkang shook his head. "It matters not. Without the Snow Song Realm King's strength, it is impossible for us to kill the ancient horned dragon. Since we are sincerely requesting the Snow Song Realm King's assistance, we cannot hide any secrets." Yan Juhai opened his mouth several times but couldn't respond. Finally, he just sighed and remained silent. Yan Wangkang sternly continued, "There are still more than 2 years' time until the Profound God Convention. Regardless of what is hidden behind the Profound God Convention this time, as long as one can enter the top 1,000, one can cultivate in the eternal heaven pearl for 1,000 years. While 1,000 years will have passed in the eternal heaven pearl, only 3 years will have passed in the outside world. However, that is not even worth mentioning, as due to the extremely high level of laws within the realm created by the eternal heaven pearl, the 1,000 years of cultivation within it is comparable to several thousands of years of cultivation outside it. Thus, if Poyun can enter the eternal heaven pearl, then 3 years later our flame god realm." Upon reaching this point, a strange glint appeared in Yan Wangkang's eyes, while Yan Juhai and Huo Ruli's breathing both drastically changed. "Might give birth to the first great realm king in its history." These words were indeed exceptionally astonishing and forceful. Although Huo Poyun had lost to Yun Qi today, his innate talent was indeed terrifying. Everyone could attest to that. He was only 24 years old, yet he had cultivated the 10th realm of the Golden Crow's record of the Burning World, which even those who had cultivated for tens of thousands of years could not necessarily cultivate. He was indeed a talent which had never before been seen within the Flame God realm. After spending 1,000 years cultivating within the Eternal Heaven Pearl, it was impossible to predict just what level he would reach. For Huo Poyun to surpass Huo Ruli was by no means an impossibility. However, the problem was, "What a good plan," Xuanian sneered. "However, in order to be eligible to enter the Eternal Heaven Pearl, one must rank in the top 1,000 of the Profound God Convention. Huo Poyun's talent with flames is indeed so high it's shocking. At least it's much higher than you three old things. But his profound cultivation is still lacking too much. He can compete with the young generation of the Middle Star Realms, but he is not yet qualified to compete with those from Upper Star Realms. Just how can he enter the Eternal Heaven Pearl?" "It is as you say," Yan Wangkang calmly nodded. "This is the real reason why we want to kill the ancient horned dragon so urgently before the Profound God Convention. If we can obtain the fire spirit stone on the ancient dragon's body." Then a light flickered through Yan Wangkang's eyes, as he without any trace of confidentiality. "The three of us have methods to allow Huo Poyun's profound strength to reach the divine spirit realm before the Profound God Convention." "What?" As Yan Wangkang said these words, all of the Ice Phoenix elders and palace masters became shocked and doubtful. How was it possible for someone to reach the divine spirit realm from the 5th level of the divine tribulation realm in just 2 years? Regardless of how high Huo Poyun's talent was, it was impossible. Yun Qi's heart began to beat wildly. To break through to the divine spirit realm from the 5th level of the divine tribulation realm in just 2 years. This idea was no crazier than his thought of breaking through to the divine tribulation realm from the divine origin realm in 2 years. Was there really such a method which would allow for this? 2 years to reach the divine spirit realm? Xuanian observed Huo Poyun for a moment, then indifferently said, "This king is truly curious as to just what kind of heaven-shocking secret method you flame God realm people found which would allow you to dare to say such crazy words." Yan Wangkang shook his head as he responded, "Of course it's not some amazing secret method. Otherwise, the entire young generation of the flame God realm would have already become incredibly strong. Secret method can only be used on Huo Poyun. I'm sure Snow Song Realm King has already realized that the bloodline inherited by Huo Poyun is different from the one inherited by normal Golden Crow sect disciples. Secret method is based off of utilizing his unique inheritance." Xuanian's gaze moved away from Huo Poyun's body as she slowly nodded and said, "Indeed. HMPH, Sect Master Yan has spoken so frankly it is not good for this king to pursue questioning it any longer." Yun Qi inwardly sighed. Indeed, this kind of secret method could not be easily used. His only question was, Huo Poyun was a disciple of the Golden Crow sect. Yet Vermilion Bird Sect Master Yan Wangkang and Phoenix Sect Master Yan Juhai both spared no effort for this matter. It seemed like although the various sects within Flame God Realm competed with each other, when it came to a large matter which would influence the entire realm, they would all put down their differences and selflessly work together. The Golden Crow inheritance within Huo Poyun's body was abnormal. Wait, could it be that he was the same as Zuer? A profound energy cultivation at the early stage of the divine spirit realm is not considered top of the line amongst the geniuses of the upper star realms. But with Poyun's extremely high attainments in fire, he absolutely has the ability to defeat those who are several levels ahead of him. Yan Wangkang was full of confidence as he continued. Although it will be incredibly hard to enter the top 1,000, at least it is not impossible. Yan Juhai glanced at Yan Wangkang. He knew very well that Yan Wangkang was still retaining some information. If everything went as planned, it was very possible that Huo Poyun's cultivation would go beyond the early stage of the divine spirit realm. There was a chance to reach the middle stage of the divine spirit realm. However, such a miraculous event would only be possible if they could kill the ancient horned dragon that was hundreds of thousands of years old. Otherwise, it was only all empty words. Now that you all have finished presenting your points, this king can indeed consider helping Flame God Realm this time. However, this king has an additional condition. Yan Wangkang's expression trembled as he became overjoyed in his mind. "Please speak, Snow Song Realm King. The 3 of us will do whatever we can." "Don't be in such a hurry to respond," Xuanian expressionlessly said. "Previously, we had agreed that if this king were to help you successfully kill the ancient horned dragon, we would split the dragon's corpse in half, however. This king's mind has now changed. This king doesn't only want half of the dragon, but also the entire dragon heart." The expressions of the 3 simultaneously experienced slight changes as Yan Wangkang furrowed his brows and said, "Forgive us, but we cannot accept this. A dragon's heart is. Huanji, send our guests away," Xuanian coldly said as she directly turned around and began walking away. Wait. Yan Wangkang hurriedly raised his hand. He didn't dare waste any more words as he slowly nodded and said, all right. Then as Snow Song Realm King has requested, if we succeed in killing the ancient horned dragon, we will present Snow Song Realm King with the entire dragon's heart." "That is not necessary. When the time comes, this king will personally go and obtain it," Xuanian said without turning around. Yan Wangkang opened his mouth several times before finally saying, "We thank the Snow Song Realm King for the assistance. We shall no longer disturb you then. When the dragon molts, we will definitely personally come to notify and receive the Snow Song Realm King. Goodbye." Finished speaking, Yan Wangkang, Yan Juhai, and Huo Ruli, along with their respective disciples Yan Zhuo, Yan Mingxuan, and Huo Poyun, simultaneously glanced at Yun Qi. After some hesitation, Huo Poyun finally spoke. Brother Xianxia, if you ever have time, I welcome you to my flame god realm. I will make sure to treat you with great hospitality. Xianxia responded, This I will have to ask my master. I thank Brother Poyun for his kindness. Huo Poyun sincerely smiled towards Xianxia, then followed Huo Ruli and the rest as they flew into the skies and left. The unexpected episode which had occurred during the Great Sect Assembly had unfolded in a fierce manner, yet ended in a fairly peaceful manner. Although the Flame God realm had achieved its goal, the greatest winner was no doubt the Snow Song realm. It was because in the end, there was no way Xiaolan would not agree to go and kill the ancient horned dragon. It was as Bingyun had said at the start. Even a scale was a great treasure if a dragon had lived hundreds of thousands of years. There was no way to resist its temptation, not to mention one in such an unprecedented critical state. In the end, she agreed to the Flame God realm's request, but only after obtaining more in return as well. Moreover, she had also obtained a complete Golden Crow's record of the burning world from Huo Ruli as well. It was something, even though no one could figure out why she wanted something she couldn't even cultivate. In comparison, the Flame God realm had revealed Huo Poyun. The shock he had caused towards the Divine Ice Phoenix sect members today would not disappear for a long time. Amidst the flurry of snow, Xiaolan returned to her throne. Directly in front of her was the giant, seemingly bottomless hole which had been created by Huo Poyun's 9 sons' Heaven's Fury. Xiaolan's brows slightly furrowed as a sky of snow abruptly swept down without any other indication, completely filling the hole. In the blink of an eye, the giant hole had completely disappeared without a trace. A thick, complete layer of pale white ice emerged in its place. Yuner, your behavior today has prevented your master from losing face, Xiaolan quietly said. I thank master for the praise, Xianxia responded as he groaned in his mind. What kind of behavior had he shown today? What occurred today had only happened because of the cheat elemental power provided by the evil god. Congratulations to Sect Master on having accepted such a rare talent, Xianxia excitedly said, unable to conceal his praise. Now that a figure with terrifying attainment in ice and frost had appeared in Divine Ice Phoenix sect, how could Xianxia, with his status as Great Elder, not feel excited? Xianxia, there is a matter this king needs to discuss with you, Xiaolan suddenly said. The word discuss caused Xianxia's heart to thump as he hurriedly kowtowed on the ground in fear and trepidation. What instructions does Sect Master have for me? Please tell me Xianxia will comply. Xiaolan's frosty eyes were half open as she nodded and said, Xianxia is now this king's disciple, and his ice laws can be considered to be unparalleled. However, his profound cultivation is just too low. Within the entire sect, his cultivation is on the lowest tier. In this respect, he is really not qualified to be this king's disciple. Xianxia didn't dare speak. The Flame God realm now has Huo Poyun. Naturally, our Snow Song realm cannot fall too far behind. Thus, this king must make Xianxia's profound strength to rise in the shortest time possible, while also making his Ice Phoenix bloodline to become increasingly purer. With these two conditions, it is increasingly important that we find a dual cultivation companion for him as quickly as possible. Xianxia, at number %, dual cultivation companion. As these words were said, how could Xianxia not understand her meaning as he raised his head and said, Sect Master, could it be? Everyone present within the courtyard all suddenly understood. Moreover, considering that Xiaolan had chosen to discuss this with Xianxia, how could they not see it clearly? However, no one expressed any extreme shock as some of them even felt like it should be. Nonetheless, many gazes secretly turned towards Xiaolan. Before Xiaolan's words had even ended, Xiaolan's face had already turned incredibly pale. His expression could still be considered calm, but his pupils were trembling in pain, as beads of blood silently fell from his two tightly clenched fists. In terms of profound strength, bloodline, and constitution, there is no one more suited than Feixu. Xiaolan frankly stated the words which everyone had already become aware of. Xianxia, what do you think? After a brief moment of shock, Xianxia's face showed deep joy as he kowtowed without hesitation and loudly said, Xianxia thanks Sect Master in the place of his granddaughter, Feixu. If it were before today that Feixu was being designated to be Xianxia's dual cultivation partner, Xianxia would definitely be slightly unhappy. However, after personally witnessing Xianxia's performance today, the only feeling that he had now was ecstasy. Xianxia's current status was the sect master's direct disciple. Within the young generation of the entire Snow Song realm, he was male with the highest status. Today, the talent that he had shown was evident. Simply in terms of his comprehension of the laws of ice, he most likely exceeded that of the past Xiaolan. As long as his life or talent did not end prematurely, he would most certainly become the next generation's realm king. If his granddaughter Mu Feixu was able to get married to Xianxia, it would be like being bestowed a gift. If Xianxia were to become the Snow Song realm king in the future, becoming the first male realm king in their entire history, then Mu Feixu would have become the wife of the realm king. Although losing her virginity would cause severe repercussions to her cultivation in the future. Despite being termed as dual cultivation partner, in actual fact, she was only an incubator for the male to gain benefits. However, even if it were not Xiaolan's intent, simply considering Xianxia's status and future, there would be no reason to reject or even hesitate. Feixu, quickly thank the sect master. Mu Huanji's voice sounded anxious as it was difficult to hide her joy. Those elders, palace masters, and hall masters who had unmarried female descendants all revealed signs of jealousy. Damn, why do such good things not happen my granddaughters? However, when they thought of Mu Feixu's talent, bloodline, and looks, they could only envy helplessly. Mu Feixu came forward and knelt down beside Mu Huanji. Feixu, do you have any objections to this matter? Mu Xiaolan asked sternly. Everything will be according to sect master's plan, Mu Feixu replied. Her voice was as cold as ice, without sorrow or joy, without any tones in it. From the start to the end, she did not take one look at Xianxia. Excellent, then this matter will be decided like this. Mu Xiaolan nodded with satisfaction. Huanji, inform Feixu's parents regarding this matter. As for the date, we shall discuss it another day. However, the earlier it happens, the better. Understood, Huanji shall start preparations tomorrow. Mu Huanji nodded continuously. Xianxia stood there stiff as wood with a dumbfounded expression. What is this? Dual cultivation partners. The hell? Divine Ice Phoenix sect has this kind of concept. Furthermore, this concerns me and is such a big matter, but why is no one asking for my opinion? I don't even know Mu Feixu well and haven't even talked to her before. Xianxia had an expression of wanting to speak but stopped, looking like he had something to say but was unable to. However, Mu Xiaolan had never even thought of asking for his opinion at all. Then, she gradually stood up, her icy cold gaze sweeping across the entire place. Since the discipleship ceremony is already over, and the matters that need to be discussed already decided, if there is nothing else, all of you may leave. Hearing Mu Xiaolan's words, everyone paid their respects and started to scatter in a swift but orderly manner. At the back of the Ice Phoenix Divine Hall, numerous Divine Hall disciples went towards Mu Hanyi, and they seemed to be verbally consoling him. After all, Mu Hanyi's obsession with Mu Feixu was something the entire sect knew. Furthermore, everyone always felt that the two of them were a pair made in the heavens, and even Mu Huanji had never shown any intention of objecting. However, she had been bestowed to Xianxia by the sect master, and an incubator to boost his bloodline and profound strength at that too. In the past, Mu Hanyi was the brightest halo within the entire sect. Now, however, because of Xianxia, he had faded into the darkness. Even those who used to vehemently speak out on his behalf that he should be the direct disciple no longer believed he could surpass Xianxia. With Mu Xiaolan's cold words, Mu Hanyi's dream of obtaining Mu Feixu had been turned into an impossible one. If Xianxia had never arrived in the Snow Song realm, then the Heavenly Netherfrost Lake competition would have followed the script, and Mu Hanyi would have become the sect master's direct disciple. As a result, Mu Feixu would likely have been given to him, Mu Hanyi, today by the sect master. He would have been able to achieve the perfect scenario he envisioned for himself. But with Xianxia's emergence, all of this had been destroyed. Everything which should have belonged to him had all been given to Xianxia. As for him, he had just become a sad foil for Xianxia. Mu Hanyi's current mood was one no one could empathize with. Perhaps it was just life being cruel to him. From birth, he had always had an extremely high innate talent, as well as a distinguished status and perfect temperament. Compared to normal people, he had worked 10 times harder. Yet his 20-odd years of effort somehow couldn't compare to Xianxia, who had only arrived for 3 months and had yet to gain a firm standing. In the blink of an eye, everyone scattered and disappeared from atop the large sacred palace's courtyard. Only Mu Xiaolan and her newly accepted disciple, Xianxia, remained. Now alone with Mu Xiaolan, Xianxia silently stood there. Not daring to speak a word or move a step, he naturally still had not forgotten his vulgar phrase of big-breasted senior sister. He could only hope that he wouldn't die too tragically. The world became completely quiet except for the sound of snow floating amidst the wind. Xiaolan stood in the midst of the snowstorm for a long time without speaking a word, as if she was thinking about something. Yunqi sneakily glanced at her figure from time to time, but still didn't dare take the initiative to speak when he had first stepped into the snow song realm. He had never imagined that he would one day be alone with such a terrifying person. It is indeed the inheritance of the ancient evil god. The fame of the creation god of elements is indeed well-deserved for the legacy to have reached such a stage, Xiaolan suddenly said. Her voice was cold and indifferent as always. Huo Poyun's talent was just too unexpected and abnormal. During those few instances, even I couldn't believe it. Now that Xiaolan had spoken, and moreover spoken positive words, Yunqi finally released the breath he had been holding and dared to speak, as he directly asked the question that was on his mind. Master, this disciple wishes to ask, did you intentionally lead Huo to a decisive competition between disciples? At this moment, Xiaolan slowly turned around. An image which seemingly combined the entire extreme beauty of the ice and snow of the snow song realm abruptly appeared within Yunqi's vision, momentarily taking his breath away. Afterwards, he subconsciously lowered his head as if he had been influenced by the appearance of such an unparalleled, frosty dignity. He didn't dare meet her eyes. What do you think about Huo? Xiaolan asked in response. Yunqi contemplated it for a moment, then said, your disciple believes that Sect Master Huo seems to be quite irritable. This should have something to do with the Golden Crow bloodline within his body. Other than that, it seems like he is indeed someone who will absolutely keep his word. Irritable? HMPH, Xiaolan lightly snorted, then said, Huo, with his status as Golden Crow Sect Master, has a status which is no less than a king in the Flame God realm. If he was truly reckless and stupid man, he never would have become the Golden Crow Sect Master. Yunqi, Huo seems extremely irritable, but he is in fact extremely shrewd and extremely hard to anger. However, his character has an extremely large weakness, which is as soon as he is angered, it is extremely easy for him to lose control and make reckless moves. Moreover, it is hard for Yan Wangkang and Yan Juhai to stop him once that happens. While it is extremely difficult for others to anger him, it is extremely easy for me to do so if I wish. Yunqi slightly raised his head. So, Master did indeed anger Sect Master Huo on purpose. Xiaolan didn't reply and instead coldly asked yet another question. Let me ask you another question. 3 Flame God Realm Sect Masters who personally came today also brought their disciples to show their sincerity, but to also show a threat. Since they wanted to show a threat, why did they only bring 3 of the young generation? Yunqi opened his mouth several times but couldn't think of a reply. On the surface, it looks like Huo was forced to bring his direct disciple along because Yan Wangkang and Yan Juhai were both bringing along a junior. It wouldn't have been proper for Huo to come by himself. However, it was exactly the opposite of that. Xiaolan's pupils seemingly froze over, refracting the purest, coldest light in the world as if they were the coldest ice in with world. It was clear that Huo was the one who insisted on bringing his personal disciple along, and that Yan Wangkang and Yan Juhai were the ones who had to helplessly bring their own juniors along as the provocation would otherwise have been too clear. Provocation! Yunqi realized something. 7 days ago, although the matter of you being accepted as my direct disciple was not made public, the Flame God realm was naturally able to learn of it through their connections within the Ice Phoenix realm. They also definitely knew that Bingyun had been cured of her poison long ago. Huo has always wanted to exact revenge on me for grievously wounding his son. In fact, when he had learned of this matter, his anger and hatred had definitely increased tenfold. Furthermore, learning of my acceptance of a direct disciple, how could he restrain himself from bringing his own abnormally talented direct disciple here today to cause me to lose face? Master seems to especially understand Sect Master Huo, Yunqi said. HMPH, with the eyes with which he looked at me when he first arrived and Huo Poyun's obvious aura of an abnormal bloodline, I could immediately tell what his goal was, Xiaolan coldly said. However, he is still far from being able to play games of manipulation with me. Yunqi's heart silently quivered as his scalp became numb. Huo had been easily enraged by Xiaolan and then verbally attacked. Under such conditions, Huo Ruli completely lost control of his mind and turned from Golden Crow sect master into a reckless, out-of-control man. Everything that had happened afterwards could be said to have happened naturally. The dignified Golden Crow sect master had been led by his nose the entire time and played like a tiny mouse. Xianxia began to increasingly feel like spending too much time beside Xiaolan would definitely be incredibly terrifying. Master, this disciple wants to ask your calculations. You didn't purposefully lead sect master Huo over with the goal of receiving the Golden Crow's record of the burning record, right? When Xiaolan had requested the Golden Crow's record of the burning world, which she couldn't cultivate from Huo Ruli, she had surprised everyone, including Xianxia. Xiaolan indifferently said, asking Huo Ruli to provide me with the Golden Crow's record of the burning world was merely a sudden change of mind on my part. Xianxia. Xiaolan turned over her hand, revealing her palm. A rolled-up jade scroll releasing a golden glow appeared and was then directly given to Xianxia. Xianxia subconsciously stuck out his hand and received it. His eyes could easily tell that this was the jade scroll which Huo Ruli had just handed to Xiaolan. It was the scroll inscribed with the complete Golden Crow's record of the burning world. This scroll of the Golden Crow's record of the burning world is inscribed with soul imprints. It can only be seen once before it completely disappears. The amount you can cultivate will be completely dependent on yourself, Xiaolan coldly said. As Xianxia held the jade scroll, he remained dazed. Only a while later did he finally startledly say, "You did it for me." "Sit," Xiaolan coldly said. While Xianxia put away the crimson gold jade scroll, he obediently sat down, his expression complex. Xiaolan took several steps toward Xianxia, bringing an extremely icy cold chill along with her as she stopped just one step in front of him. "Close your eyes, calm your soul, and observe your mind. There cannot be any distractions." "Yes," Xianxia replied. As he closed his eyes, his aura gradually calmed down as well. By the end, the sky of falling snow began directly landing on his clothes and sticking. Xiaolan stuck out a single finger as a drop of blood flickering with an icy blue light condensed at her fingertip, and then directly touched the center of Xianxia's brows. Xianxia's body quivered as a pure, frosty energy dispersed around him. A blue light flashed as the abnormally colored drop of blood slowly merged into Xianxia. Afterwards, a layer of illusory ice blue light emerged on the surface of Xianxia's body. The blood of the Ice Phoenix god. Moreover, it was the purest origin blood. Xiaolan retracted her finger as a frosty glow condensed in the center of her palm. Just as she was about to come into contact with the center of Xianxia's brows again, her eyes and palms simultaneously paused for a moment, after which she once again slowly retracted her palm and began to just silently watch. It seemed like there was no need for her to use her own strength to help Xianxia refine the blood. For the past few days, Xianxia had constantly been thinking whether becoming her direct disciple was a right or wrong decision, whether he was lucky or unlucky. And towards him, Xiaolan also had the same thoughts in her mind. Phoenix's bloodline entered his body. Xianxia felt that an ice crystal so pure that it was practically holy had blossomed inside his body with the pure, cold radiance of ice. Compared to the extremely combustive blood of the Phoenix and Golden Crow, the Ice Phoenix's blood was a lot gentler. It practically submitted to the flow of Xianxia's profound energy and swam slowly across all of Xianxia's body. It slowly melted into his bloodline bit by bit, like ice. Xianxia opened his eyes as an odd flash of blue flitted across them. Although it was merely a single drop of origin blood, he could sense the changes happening in his frost profound energy. He lifted his hand as a tiny ice bead appeared in his palm. Although it was still made out of ice, this particular ice bead felt like it was actually alive. Its aura and its radiance had climbed to a whole new level, and it was radiating with great divine way aura, just like his flames. Now that he possessed the Ice Phoenix's bloodline, Xianxia had no doubt that his frozen end divine arts and Ice Phoenix god investiture cannon would become several times stronger than before. 7.5 minutes. Xiaolan's icy voice rang beside Xianxia's ears. Xianxia got up and said respectfully, "Thank you, master." "Follow me?" Xiaolan looked at him once before turning around. Her snow-like figure appeared a few hundred meters away in an instant, as Xianxia hastily chased after her. This silent world contained nothing but infinite ice and snow. Human life didn't exist here. In fact, no life except theirs existed here at all. Xianxia suddenly had a strange feeling that he and his master were the only ones left in this world. Xianxia followed Xuanian into the sacred hall. It wasn't really beyond Xianxia's expectations. The building before him might be called a great hall, but it was so vast that he couldn't see the end of it. He couldn't even see the ceiling of the hall. The cold air in this place was so thick that it was almost as thick as the heavenly netherfrost lakes. This world was entirely pure white and infinitely silent. It was obvious that this place was restricted by special spatial laws, just like the Ice Phoenix Palace's cultivation room, except that the laws here were a lot more complicated. Here and the heavenly netherfrost lake will be your places of cultivation from here on out. Xuanian's voice was cold and merciless. You are my direct disciple, so you must be prepared to face cultivation training far crueler than you can possibly imagine. Do not dream of slacking off even a day. Even if you feel regrets now, it is too late to turn back. Xianxia nodded firmly and tightened his eyebrows. He didn't look afraid in the slightest, because the reason he risked so much to enter under Xuanian's tutelage was to obtain the most extreme of training. The Ice Phoenix's divine blood has fused with you, so technically speaking I should be teaching you on recultivating the Ice Phoenix God investiture cannon. But your main weapon is a heavy sword, and you are extremely reliant on your movement skill. Adding that to the fact that you were able to cultivate the Ice Phoenix God investiture cannon even before you obtain the Ice Phoenix's bloodline, it is unlikely that you'll need my guidance in this department at all. Xuanian extended her right hand with her jade white palm facing towards Xianxia. Therefore, I shall teach you this first. Focus and watch. The moment Xuanian said this, Xianxia subconsciously tried to look up. But suddenly, a soul-cowing cold energy suddenly assaulted the back of his neck. He turned around like he was pricked by electricity, and to his shock, he saw another Xuanian behind him holding the same posture. Her slightly crooked fingers were merely half an inch from his neck. His larynx would be shattered instantly if she spat out even a bit of energy from her palm. Apprehension sizzled in Xianxia's heart, but cold energies even more terrible than the one before suddenly stabbed in his direction from his right and topside before he could react. When he finally did, an icy cold sensation was already prickling against his head and neck. Xianxia turned his head with a bit of difficulty, and he saw two more Xuanians above his head and his right side. Then Xuanian's shadows disappeared all at once. Xuanian was standing in front of him with the same posture again as if she had never moved an inch. "What is this?" Xianxia exclaimed. Xuanian put down her arm and said indifferently, "Just like the Star God realm's Star God's broken shadow, the moon-splitting cascade is a profound, instantaneous movement technique. The strength of Star God's broken shadow lies not only in its ability to move a cultivator instantaneously, but also split off several afterimages. Moreover, the aura discharged by these afterimages are almost exactly the same as the cultivators, right until the moment they dissipate, thus foiling the enemy's attempts at tracking them down." Xianxia nodded. It was obvious that Xuanian knew the Star God's broken shadow very well. The reason the Heavenly Slaughter Star God taught you the Star God's broken shadow is probably in hopes that you wouldn't die too early. Something moved behind Xianxia's eyes before he nodded once more. He was unspeakably weak when he met Jasmine for the first time. If he died, Jasmine's soul would die together with him. So it was true that she had taught him the Star God's broken shadow to protect his life. After he arrived at New Moon City and chose a heavy sword as his weapon, his reliance on Star God's broken shadow grew by leaps and bounds. "My Snow Song realm may not compare to a king realm like the Star God realm, but my technique is in no way weaker than the Star God's broken shadow. It is true that the moon-splitting cascade cannot compare to the Star God's broken shadow in terms of the range of the instantaneous movement, but it also has a great advantage of its own, and that is presence concealment." "Presence concealment," Xianxia whispered softly. "So it conceals a cultivator's presence?" "Yes. This technique is propelled by the profound energy of ice, and it will leave behind an afterimage and aura that will hang around temporarily the instant you move away. The technique is executed differently from the Star God's broken shadow, but it is in no way weaker in terms of disrupting the opponent's senses." Xianxia's mouth fell open in shock. This technique could leave behind a cultivator's figure, an aura so that the enemy wouldn't notice that they had moved away already. The enemy would be fooled into attacking or defending themselves against the afterimage. It was a technique that could create a huge opening in the opponent's guard, even if it lasted only for an instant. If that was true, then it definitely wasn't weaker than the confusion instilled by the broken shadows, left behind by the star god's broken shadow. However, you will need to cultivate this technique until you're completely proficient with it to leave behind an afterimage. In fact, if you can cultivate it to perfection, Xiaolan's eyes narrowed slightly, then you would not only be able to conceal your presence but also yourself. The concealment of oneself. Do you mean that the cultivator can turn invisible? Xianxia asked with a little bit of disbelief. The concealment of oneself might sound like a fantasy story, but it was absolutely attainable. In fact, he knew that there was an amazing thing called star-concealing grass that could achieve the same effect. Not only did he know this, he himself had used the star-concealing grass before. That's right, Xiaolan gave him an affirmative reply while Xianxia was still stunned by the news. Although no one, your master myself included, has succeeded in cultivating this technique, and no one has even seen this level of achievement before, it is a technique left behind by the Ice Phoenix spirit herself, and not the creation of our founder. Therefore, it simply cannot be a lie. But this isn't something that you should think about right now. Xiaolan's voice vaguely dropped a few degrees. This is an ancient divine technique left behind by the Ice Phoenix spirit, and it doesn't require the cultivator to possess the Ice Phoenix bloodline. However, it is also hundreds of times more difficult to cultivate than the Ice Phoenix God investiture canon. Thus far, I am the only one in the entire sect who has successfully cultivated this technique. You are the only one who has successfully cultivated this technique. Xianxia looked even more surprised. HMPH. If Bingyun had successfully cultivated this technique, then there's no way she would be taken by surprise so easily by that old fool Huo, really, would she? A high-rank profound movement skill is far harder to cultivate than a high-rank profound art. If you can cultivate the star god's broken shadow, then there is no reason you can't cultivate this technique. Xiaolan extended both hands, touching his glabella once with one left finger, and his three main profound entrances around his chest with three right fingers. I will teach you the art's fundamental stage and the profound energy circulation method to you now. Concentrate your mind. Yes, Xianxia responded and closed his eyes. 4 blue dots appeared at the same time as the art's fundamental stage was instantly imprinted in Xianxia's soul and mind. At the same time, his own profound energy began circulating swiftly in a complicated pattern under the guidance of Xiaolan's profound energy. Several breaths later, Xiaolan moved her hands away from Xianxia. Xianxia also opened his eyes at the same time. How much did you manage to memorize? Xiaolan asked. I've memorized everything, Xianxia answered. Everything? Xiaolan frowned slightly. It was obvious that she didn't believe his words. Xianxia nodded. I've memorized everything. In that case, Xiaolan spoke while maintaining her frown, then circulate the technique once for me? All right. Xianxia closed his eyes and carefully began to circulate his frost profound energy. Blue dots appeared on his body and persisted for several breaths before he abruptly opened his eyes. Swoosh! A cold wind brushed by and Xianxia instantly moved 30 meters away while dragging a long, blue afterimage behind him. However, the light dots abruptly flickered as his body wobbled and he nearly stumbled. Xiaolan. Xianxia hastily stabilized himself and exhaled softly. Then he said with a bit of shame, it really is quite difficult. My movement is incomparable to your movement at all, master. Xiaolan couldn't say anything for a very long time. Even the most basic movement of moon-splitting Cascade required the cultivator to use 37 profound entrances at once. Moreover, every profound entrance was required to follow differing profound energy circulation patterns and strengths. The requirements were so strict that even the slightest misstep in the strength or direction of the profound energy in a certain profound entrance would cause the cultivator's profound energy to go out of control. If the error was serious, it might even hurt the cultivator's profound veins. And this was just the control of the profound entrances. The circulation of profound energy in the cultivator's veins wasn't even brought into question yet. She had guided the circulation of Xianxia's profound energy only once, and yet he actually managed to memorize everything correctly. It was true that he used several breaths' time to prepare his instantaneous movement. His speed was slow, his landing needed much work, and he left behind a long trail of ice shadows after he executed the technique. But there was no denying that his form was the starting sign of mastery over the technique. This was an ancient divine technique that no elder or palace master had ever managed to cultivate despite spending thousands or even tens of thousands of years trying. And yet he actually managed to complete a shoddy but extremely complete version of the technique in one go, just based on the art's fundamental stage and profound energy circulation method she taught him. In silence, Xiaolan hid her astonishment in the deepest part of her eyes. Her assessment and recognition of Yun Qi's abilities had changed dramatically over the past moment. If the impression Yun Qi left her before this was the sky poison pearl and the evil god's inheritance, then her impression right now was absolute astonishment toward Yun Qi's unbelievable power of comprehension and control of profound energy. History was inadvertently repeating. That year, when Jasmine was instructing Yun Qi, she had been stunned by his astonishing, to the point of being unbelievable, comprehensive ability. And today, within the heart of Yun Qi's second master following Jasmine, a similar astonishment emerged. Seeing Xiaolan remain silent for a long time with a frosty and pressing countenance, Yun Qi thought she was disappointed and said softly, "Master, just now? It was only a small mistake I made in haste. Give this disciple 1 day's time. This disciple will definitely satisfy Master. Otherwise, this disciple is willing to receive any punishment." Xiaolan turned, then replied coldly, "It's good that you're aware you still have a long way to go. Today you'll follow what I demonstrated just now and cultivate with all your strength, not slacking off for even a moment. 8 hours later, if there are still ice shadow remnants, don't rest for the next 3 days." "Yes," Yun Qi smiled bitterly. Her stern order issued, Xiaolan didn't say any more and left. "Master," Yun Qi suddenly called her to a stop, then quickly took out Yan Wangkang's trio's congratulatory gift. "This is Sect Master Yan's. Didn't I say I bestowed it to you?" Xiaolan said coldly, "HMPH, that's a piece of vermilion bird jade. It actually is quite priceless. Keep it and play around with it." Vermilion bird jade. It was unclear if it was the same sort of object as the jade of the 9 suns, but if it was, "Yes, Master." Yun Qi didn't say much more, only now could he receive it with relief. "Oh, right, I have one more matter. This disciple accidentally met Senior Brother Hanny at the Great Sect Assembly. Senior Brother Hanny's father's 1000th birthday is in half a month, and he entrusted disciple to invite Master to visit." "HMPH?" Xiaolan didn't even turn her head and snorted incomparably coldly. "Just a small nation's ruler is fit for this king to appear. Furthermore, Chair, remember Hanny doesn't have the qualifications to be considered your senior brother. Be sure it doesn't happen again." Finished speaking, Xiaolan's silhouette flashed, vanishing in front of Yun Qi's eyes like the melting of drifting snow. Phew, without Xiaolan near his side, the pressure on Yun Qi's body and mind abruptly eased. He took a deep breath and rapidly concentrated his mind, focusing wholeheartedly on cultivation. Cascade's fundamental stage was profound and cryptic. It contained tens of thousands of mysterious principles and variations, while its profound energy circulation method was even more complex and ever-changing, moreover. It could only be used with frost profound energy. Without frost profound energy, it was absolutely impossible to learn. No matter the profound energy requirement nor the circulation method, they were all much harsher and more complicated than Star God's broken shadow. The cultivation difficulty was also several times greater. This was the Snow Song Realm's sacred hall, a sacred place that no outsiders could approach. Here, Yun Qi could obtain a state of complete focus. After his initial difficulty and 4 hours of strenuous non-stop cultivation, his mastery of moon-splitting Cascade had already moved from the initial stage to the beginner stage. He now only needed a span of 3 breaths to teleport once, and the distance far surpassed what it had been before. However, he would leave behind a clear ice afterimage. After dozens of practice attempts, he would close his eyes and return to comprehending the mysteries and variations of its fundamental formula. Under his terrifying comprehension and focus, he would gain new understanding each time, and every use of the art would show obvious progress. The activation speed grew quicker and quicker, while the ice afterimages became fainter and fainter. For ordinary profound practitioners, such enlightenment could not be forced. Tens, hundreds, and even thousands of years could be spent comprehending some of the extremely high-grade and complicated profound arts before an understanding dawned. On the other hand, Yun Qi only needed to close his eyes and concentrate for 15 minutes to half an hour to attain new understanding. This was so for the Frozen End divine art, the Yun family's purple cloud art, the Golden Crow's record of the burning world. And now, this was also the case for the moon-splitting cascade he was currently practicing. 8 hours later, an icy figure appeared in the sacred hall and silently observed the highly focused Xianxia as he practiced. 8 hours was undoubtedly the shortest of times for a cultivator. Yet in the newcomer's eyes, every time Xianxia displayed the moon-splitting cascade, it would be several times more complete than during the previous 8-hour period. Although it was still at the initial stage and could not be used for actual combat, if such astonishing progress continued, it was extremely probable that the first shadowless stage would be reached in less than a month. Moreover, it seemed that he did not even need her guidance over this period. Another moon-splitting cascade was completed. This time, it was not only fast, but there was also barely any ice afterimage. However, there was still a tremendous gap compared to what Xiaolan had displayed earlier. Xianxia heaved a tiny sigh of relief. The clear figure of Xiaolan suddenly flashed and appeared in his sights, and he immediately walked forward. "Master, follow me." Xiaolan turned around. Xianxia hesitated for a moment and did not comment as he followed her. However, Xiaolan abruptly stopped at this moment. "Do you have something to say?" Xianxia also stopped. Words swiftly organized themselves in his head as he earnestly said, "Master, this disciple understands that cultivating the profound ways should be done one step at a time, and fears obtaining quick results the most. Furthermore, disciple knows that profound arts and skills are at times even more important than profound energy cultivation. But you want to ask if I know a method that will allow you to reach the divine tribulation realm in 2 years?" Xiaolan's crescent-shaped eyebrows slightly furrowed together. "Yes," Xianxia nodded his head. "Disciple followed Senior Bingyun to the Snow Song realm for this reason. Master should have long known of this. This matter is incomparably important to disciple. If disciple can advance to the divine tribulation realm before the profound God convention and obtain the right to enter the eternal heaven realm, no matter how many hardships there will be, even if I have to pay a great price, this disciple will accept all of it. I beg Master to grant my wish." Although the incomparably profound moon-splitting cascade had garnered great interest from him, mastering the moon-splitting cascade was not important to him, because he belonged to the blue pole star and not the God realm. After he obtained his heart's desire, he would leave the God realm forever and return to the blue pole star. Moreover, the thing he longed for the most in the God realm was to see Jasmine. To see Jasmine, what he needed the most was profound strength, and not the Ice Phoenix God investiture cannon or the moon-splitting cascade. He had forced Xiaolan to become his master and even restrained his nature. His obedient behavior in front of her was absolutely not because he desired the Ice Phoenix bloodline, profound arts, or the status of being her direct disciple. In this Snow Song realm, if there was someone who could help him advance to the divine tribulation realm before the profound God convention, it could only be Xiaolan. Xiaolan slowly turned around, and her icy eyes seemed to give off an eternally unchanging ice-cold light. "You have merely entered the divine origin realm. How can it be so easy to break through to the divine tribulation realm in 2 years?" Xiaolan's words did not cause Xianxia to be disappointed. Instead, his mind was shaken, because she had said, "How can it be so easy?" which meant that it was not impossible. This signified that she might really have some extraordinary method. "Master, no matter what method it is, as long as there is a tiny chance, I am willing to try it." Xianxia did not look away from Xiaolan's gaze as he decisively declared. "Is she really so important to you?" Xiaolan coldly asked. "Yes," Xianxia nodded without hesitation. "All right." Xiaolan suddenly slowly nodded her head, the brilliance in her icy pupils unchanging. "Since you are so anxious, I have no choice but to grant your wish." While Xianxia was stunned, blue light suddenly surfaced in front of Xiaolan. "Huenzi, I permit you to temporarily use the Sacred Hall's teleportation formation. Make sure Feixu arrives at the Sacred Hall to see this king within the span of 100 breaths." Xiaolan's voice faded together with the blue light. Xianxia was rather dazed as he inquired, Feixu? Unless you can enter the eternal heaven pearl, it will be impossible to cross 2 great realms of the divine way in a short 2 years, no matter how talented you are and how extreme the training. Although the Snow Song realm has countless miraculous pellets and spiritual herbs, it is impossible to reach the heavens in a single step. Xiaolan's tone changed a little. However, due to the Ice Phoenix God investiture canon, our divine Ice Phoenix sect can indeed make use of a shortcut. "Master, you said shortcut. Could it be?" Xianxia started to stutter. Do you know why the highest-level women in our divine Ice Phoenix sect with the greatest talent, cultivation, and status are mostly single and will never marry? Xiaolan asked. Disciple has heard that if the women of the divine Phoenix bloodline lose their vital yin, their cultivation and profound art progress will become very slow and a far cry from what it had been previously. Additionally, the greater one's talent and cultivation, the more cold one will become. Thus, Yun Qi's reply was very soft. This was what he had heard from Xiaolan. Bingyun had been single for thousands of years, and Xiaolan tens of thousands. Moreover, Xiaolan had said that the even more talented Feixu of the direct divine Phoenix bloodline would likely remain unmarried for her entire life like Bingyun. But now, HMPH, so you already know. Iciness that was enough to freeze the Azure Sea was present on Xiaolan's peerless face. However, that is only half of the reason. Although some of the profound cultivators of the so-called dignified and upright sects hold contempt for dual cultivation, it is not an evil method. If a couple is able to come to an agreement and complement each other in the exchange of yin and yang, it will be extremely beneficial to the profound strength and profound arts training of both parties. However, the Ice Phoenix bloodline of our divine Ice Phoenix sect is an extreme yin bloodline. Thus, the Ice Phoenix God investiture canon is an extremely cold, profound art, which rejects external yang energy. Hence, the fusion of yin and yang is absolutely impossible. If yin and yang is exchanged, not only would the vital yin be lost, only the male will benefit each time. Yun Qi was speechless. It is exactly because of the relation between the Ice Phoenix bloodline and the Ice Phoenix God investiture canon that the vital yin of Ice Phoenix women greatly exceed that of other women. Moreover, their vital yin contains the purest Ice Phoenix aura. If it is obtained by a man, it will greatly raise his profound energy cultivation and even strengthen his icy physique. So, do you understand now? Yun Qi opened his mouth. After a long time, he said with some difficulty, "Is this what Master meant by shortcut? Appointing Feixu as disciple's dual cultivation companion is also for the sake of..." "That's right." Yun Qi's reaction made Xiaolan frown a little. To break through to the divine tribulation realm in a short 2 years, robbing Ice Phoenix vital yin is the most practical shortcut. With enough vital yin, the corners of Yun Qi's mouth faintly twitched as he fell into a daze. One did not know what state of mind he was in as he stupidly asked. Then, how much Ice Phoenix vital yin is needed to reach the divine tribulation realm? Xiaolan was silent for a moment before she replied in an indifferent voice. Amongst this generation of Ice Phoenix disciples, Feixu possess the highest grade of Ice Phoenix vital yin. If they could all be like Feixu, 1,000 would perhaps be enough. 1,000? Yun Qi opened and closed his mouth, causing him to almost bite his tongue. Xiaolan remained unmoved by Yun Qi's response. But there is only one Feixu, and it is not possible to find any within the young generation that can compare to her. If selected from the Sacred Hall, Ice Phoenix Palace, and the various Great Ice Phoenix branch sects, at least 3,000 Ice Phoenix disciples who have retained their vital yin are needed for this to be work. HMPH, although the chances do not even reach 10%, there is likely no better alternative. 3,000. At number percent, Yun Qi's scalp was numb as his legs turned to jelly. Too many. After speaking these words, Yun Qi suddenly regained his senses as he used all his might to shake his head. No, disciple cannot accept this method. Cannot accept? Xiaolan's expression abruptly darkened. Why not? The light in Xiaolan's eyes fluctuated, causing the atmosphere to suddenly change, as a chill immediately swept from the bottom of Yun Qi's feet to the top of his head. Yun Qi never imagined that his rejection would result in such an intense reaction from Xiaolan. He could only brace himself as he spoke. To allow so many of my fellow junior and senior sisters to lose their talent, and even sacrifice their purity for the sake of this disciple's profound strength advance, this disciple cannot allow such a thing. Sacrifice. HMPH? Xiaolan icily said. You are my Xiaolan's direct disciple. Being selected is their honor. It is no sacrifice. Even in his wildest dreams, Yun Qi would never have imagined that Xiaolan would propose such a method for the sake of finding the only shortcut for him. 2 years, 3,000 Ice Phoenix vital yin. It was impossible to imagine what would happen in those 2 years. Let alone the fact that there was not even a 10% chance of success, even if it really enabled him to advance to the divine tribulation realm in 2 years. It would be no different from an incubus plundering vital yin to supplement his yang energy. Forget about what kind of reputation he would have in the Snow Song realm if the little demon Empress Zuer and the rest knew of this. Moreover, Mu Feixu. Out of the question. Yun Qi continued to shake his head. Disciple cannot do it. Disciple can endure even the most cruel and hardest training, but using so many fellow junior and senior sisters, this disciple. Using. Mu Xuanian coldly snorted in a disdainful manner. Did you not save Bingyun's life to make use of her to come to the Snow Song realm? You suddenly changed your mind in the heavenly nether frost lake and did all you could to make me your master. Was this not for the sake of using me to help you advance to the divine tribulation realm? Yun Qi opened and closed his mouth. He had no response to her words. Do you know that even the emperor of a nation would not even dare to touch any of the women in the Snow Song realm who possess Ice Phoenix vital yin? If I allow you to select any of them, absolutely no one will disobey. Not only is this the best chance for you to reach the divine tribulation realm, it is also a great blessing that no one will ever be able to receive, yet you dare to reject it. HMPH, do not think that I don't know that you, who have not even reached the age of 30, already have several wives in the lower realms. Bingyun has also once told me that you are reckless and never suppress your desires. In the frozen cloud Asgard she had established, you engaged in profane activities with the women in the Asgard, as the Asgard master in broad daylight. Yet you now dare to act like a saint in front of me. At number %, Yun Qi was flabbergasted. The hell. Why didn't you Bingyun tell her all of this? Disciple and them were both willing parties moreover. At this time, an ice-cold breeze approached and Mu Feixu, dressed in snow-white clothes, drifted over. Her arrival made it seem as if a beautiful snow-heart ice lotus had suddenly blossomed in the sacred hall. Feixu greets sect master. She respectfully bowed her body at Mu Xuanian's side, but did not even take a look at Yun Qi. It was as if he did not exist in this world. Feixu, your arrival is timely. Mu Xuanian replied Mu Feixu, but her gaze never shifted away from Yun Qi's body. Her voice suddenly slowed at this moment. Moreover, it became incomparably relaxed. Chair, this is the first day that I have formally become your master, yet you actually dare to disobey my words. You have no choice in this matter.